Welcome travelers to the full story of AveyaZ, from Birthright to Retribution. The video will be fully voiced by yours truly. Treat this video like a podcast and listen along during whatever it is you are choosing to do today. There will be some short-form generated imagery about the lore that will last for about 1 minute long and will loop continuously. Enjoy the story. And for those also living in the United States, happy Thanksgiving. Prologue. This fantasy world is Virelios, a tapestry woven from supernatural mana and the endless echoes of ancient conflict. It is not a singular realm, but a circular structure of 5 distinct domains separated by a vast, perpetual unknown, the nebula zone known as Nemyra. The grandest and most coveted of these is Athen, the central realm, comprising the continents Westhen and Easthen, bound together by a mix of land and water. Yet, to venture beyond the shores of Athen is to enter Nemyra, the nebula zone itself. It is an enormous, foggy cosmic expanse filled with monsters, mana storms, and the ruins of forgotten civilizations. Entry is only possible through 5 opposing Nemyra gates scattered across Athens' continents. Beyond this chaotic barrier lie the 4 outer realms: Lazulun, the realm of light, and Nocturos, the realm of darkness, and the neighboring titans of Zarwell, the realm of chaos, and Virelios, the realm of order. The shadow of conflict. Virelios was not born of peace, but forged in the ashes of divine rebellion. A century ago, the continent of Athen and the noble houses of chaos and order were thrust into the cataclysm known as the Divine War. Though the realms of Lazulun and Nocturos were not directly involved, there were a few notable individuals who got involved in the Divine War. The conflict pitted the United Realms against overwhelming beings, gods and goddesses whose power placed them among the top tier of all of the living. These godlike beings were discriminated for their overwhelming power. The general public and major political factions feared that if they ever had chosen to eliminate the masses, they certainly had the power to do it if they were to band together, driven by a desire to reshape the land. These godlike beings were eventually repelled due to the help of many other gods or goddesses alike that had chosen to side with the lesser living species of power. The victory, however, was marked by utter devastation, costing hundreds of billions of souls. To ensure such a threat could never rise again, the survivors resorted to secrets and forbidden acts. The magical seals and the Divine War. The defeat of the gods necessitated the use of dark rituals, 2 of which became instantly infamous and forever scarred the lore of Virelios. The first one is the Agnosis seal, the Seal of Undoing, created by Agnos, the hell god of corruption, with the help of Zarvith Zendelga. Its purpose was to permanently erase a godlike being's existence. The effect was horrifying: immediate memory loss and mana lock, followed by slow, agonizing soul corrosion. The stronger the individual, the longer the prolonged suffering is. This seal, though effective, was deemed forbidden for all future use by the newly established Virelios monarchy due to its overly harsh cruelty. The death penalty could be considered less cruel in comparison to the Agnosis seal. The second seal that was created was the Chronostic seal, the seal of temporal imprisonment, created through collaboration between Athenian sages and the chaos and order realms. Unlike its counterpart, this seal did not destroy, but preserved. It imprisoned targets outside of time, halting decay and power. Its weakness, however, was noted in the records. If enough raw chaos or order mana flooded an area, the seal held the potential to rupture. The silence that fell over the ruins of the battlefield after the Divine War was the silence of exhaustion, not victory. The surviving champions of Athen and the noble houses stood weary, bathed in the sickly gold light of dawn. But the true end had not yet come. In the center of the devastation, Zarvith Zendelga, the first almighty god and progenitor of the royal chaos Zendelga cursed bloodline, stood alone. He was a supreme chaos sorcerer, excelling equally in close and far-range combat. Many of those would fail to judge Zarvith a mage type upon initial glances. Instead of celebration, his eyes, burning with malevolence, were fixed on his former allies. The weariness of battle was replaced by a cold, devastating fury. Zarvith had turned against all life post-war and final battle to seek revenge for his cursed bloodline. Zarvith's purpose of fighting in the Divine War was not to win the war, but to weaken any of his soon-to-be enemies. Zarveth cares nothing for this world. He was cursed by his blood at a young age and has never been able to recover from it. Thus he believes with his tainted power, he will force all of the mighty to serve him to uncover a cure to his cursed bloodline. His power, the raw, destructive force of chaos, erupted, manifesting as pulsing red veins around his eyes. His weapon, the corrupted variant of the Royal Z Ruin, solidified from swirling energy into a terrifying fusion of scythe, sword, and staff. It was at this very moment that the people truly understood the power Zarveth has. It was nothing like anybody had ever witnessed. His power was beyond that of a god, and thus in his words, "You will choose to serve me, or feel the desperation that has haunted me for my entire life." Aghanos' seal was out of the question because Zarveth was needed in order to cast the seal. Many gods and goddesses alike that were alive after the end of the final battle were utterly annihilated by Zarveth. Killing him is out of the question. There simply is not enough recoverable power in this time to bring him down. More and more people have come to hold off Zarveth to buy the Grand Sage's time. Finally, there was the activation of the chronostic seal from the Grand Sages. This seal, born of collaboration between Athenian sage, Chaos and Order, was designed to freeze the sealed target outside of time. Zarveth's moment of blood-soaked rampage was instantaneously arrested. His scream became a timeless echo, and his destructive power preserved in stillness. He was sealed beneath Auralexia, the future capital to Athens' capital nation. Imprisoned in that state of perfect, furious power, the divine war was finally over, but the Oath of Equinox had been tragically tainted by the ultimate betrayal of one of their own champions. Only 5 of the original godlike beings who chose to side with the mortals are able to remain due to the benefits they will provide to overall society. The others were killed or sealed away in the chronostic seal. The impact that the now known as the Oblivion God, Zarveth Zindelga, had left upon the lands is an incredibly difficult obstacle to get over. The aftermath of the diving war, the Golden Law. In the wake of the Divine War, the capital nation of Virelios, the Golden Law rose in the central realm of Athen. Led by House Calva, the new monarchy's main objective was to enforce stability and diplomacy through the Athenian Accord. This delicate, hard-won stability now governs the 5 nations of Athen, Virelios, Nemyra, Draegorne, Solvara, and Ferundel, but the peace is fragile. The true secrets of the war, the identities of the sealed gods, and the terrifying potential of chaos power remain guarded by the Calva bloodline. This was the time for a complete reset to the tragedies that had occurred. Those who remained and took part of the final battle versus Zarveth are an oath to remain secret about the entire ordeal, hoping that word will never get out about Zarveth's betrayal. If word got out, the peace that is limited as it is with the other realms would quickly disappear and cause widespread violence. If violence were to break out in the Chaos realm, it would quickly transfer over to the outer realms, which inevitably would lead back to Athen. Athen is in no position to handle any other atrocities at this time. The continent of Athen, bound together by the diplomatic treaties of the Athenian Accord, is ruled by 5 distinctly powerful nations that form a fragile political and geographical alliance. At its center is Virelios, the capital nation, the seat of the monarch and home to House Calva, the keepers of the Golden Law. Its capital, Auralexia, is a captivating metropolis nestled in flatlands, renowned for its royal academies and diplomatic halls, where intricate cobblestone streets wind between a harmonious blend of medieval and modern architecture. Virelios experiences relatively stable weather throughout the year and serves as the primary link to all other nations. Bordering Virelios to the northwest is Nemyra, the Mage Tech nation. Led by the Mages Association, this nation is solely dedicated to technological and magical evolution, specializing in tech magic research and war golem creation. Its capital, Zephyral, boasts elegant, glass-like architecture woven with glowing energy veins and exists in a perpetual spring season across its open flatland terrain. The western landmass is dominated by Draegorne, the guild and gladiator nation, which adheres to the motto, strength through strife, glory through trials. Its capital, Garandar, is defined by stone towers, massive guild banners, and the constant roar of cheering crowds from its beast arenas. Draegorne is overseen by a mercenary leader who controls the powerful Grand Guild, which licenses all adventurers. Geographically, it is a land of massive forest terrain, deep hills and caves, experiencing a mix of spring and fall with no harsh winters. South of the central belt lies Ferundel, the nation of demi-born tribes. This kingdom protects ancient traditions and is defined by living architecture, cities grown from trees, earth, and stone, and a deep respect for the old ways. While much of the nation has stable weather, the bottommost part of Ferundel is trapped in an everlasting winter, complete with constant, heavy snowfall. The demi-born live by the guiding phrase, born of blood, bound by spirit. On the northeastern edge of Athen is Solvara, the grand market and neutral trade nation, which stands as a sanctuary for all realms. Its ruling authority, House Ashan, acts as the custodians of prosperity, forging alliances and managing trade with irresistible elegance, ruling not through might but through commerce. The capital, Virelios, is the golden crossroads of Athen, known for floating bazaars, sea-glass towers, and spice-filled, peaceful streets, living by the motto, where all paths converge and no sword strikes first. Solvara is a landscape of diverse terrain, shifting from a harbor city in the north to unleveled hills in the south, existing predominantly in the summer and autumn seasons. Finally, separating Ferundel and Solvara lies the vast, unincorporated territory known as the Weeping Dystopia. This somber region is characterized by crumbling temples, overgrown cities, and forests slowly reclaiming once great empires. Rumored to hold dormant war machines, it is a warm, rainy landscape of massive forest terrain and deep hills where wanderers often disappear. Monsters live throughout each of the realms, but the most notorious threats of them exist deep within Nemyra. This story will be played through the viewpoint of the two protagonists of the story, Avant Zendelga and Freya Zagar. Avant is a prince of the Chaos Realm, and Freya Zagar is his best friend since childhood. Freya is not a royal member of society, but incredibly capable, and will lead on to have a major impact throughout the story. The story will begin in the year 3067, when they are both 27 years old. The Shadow of the Nebula, the first Nytherian year 3055. 12 years ago, in the year 3055, the precarious peace of the Outer Realms was shattered by a large-scale invasion from the very depths of the Nemyra, the Nebula Zone. This calamitous event, later named the First Nytherian in reference to the current Chaos King, Valtheron Zendelga, was not merely an incursion, it was a brutal and terrifying exhibition of evolving external threats. The aggressive void-touched species, centered deep within Nemyra, erupted through the outermost defenses of the realms of chaos and order beyond the border gates. Their attack was swift, violent, and devastating, tearing through communities on the edge of Zarvail. However, the true horror of the invasion was revealed in the discovery of a new tier of void-touched, beings of overwhelming power never before encountered. Their most terrifying ability was a corruption, incurable at the time, that consumed non-Netherian descendants. Though the people of Zarvail, including the Zendelga elites, managed to repel the invasion, the cost was staggering. Among the lives lost were the parents of Liliana Zendelga, Avant's cousin. The invasion had succeeded in one thing, spreading a deep, pervasive uncertainty about the mysteries and dangers lurking beyond the Nemyra gates, concerns that resonated even in the sheltered diplomacy of Athen. For the Zendelga lineage, the loss was personal and catastrophic. 13-year-old Liliana was taken in by Avant and his family, finding refuge and solace within the current heir to the royal household. Though Lily will never forget the incident of losing her parents, over time she continues to build on her life alongside her relatives in the Zendelga royal house. Lily's closeness to Freya and Avant can be explained as an inseparable family member, though not directly by blood to Freya. The Chaos Monarchy. The Chaos realm of Zarvail is governed by two royal lineages that symbolize ultimate strength and dynamic innovation, the Zendelga and the Zavareth. The Zendelga lineage are the current primary holders of the monarchy in the Chaos realm. They are defined by their resemblance to destructive chaos and carry the underlying curse of blood rage. This curse gives them explosive power but threatens them with a total loss of self and control. The Zavareth lineage, sometimes referred to as the Forgotten Chaos, are represented by Obliviate Chaos. This term signifies a modified or forgotten bloodline. Crucially, the Zavareth hold a power structure similar to the Zendelgus, but are distinguished by being without the curse of blood rage. They represent a more controlled, ancient form of chaos power, often seeking to unite with the Zendelgus to protect their public reputation. The power held within the Zendelga lineage was not a simple gift, but a volatile heritage trapped inside them. Known as Chaos Resurgence, this cycle of power was, in reality, the progression of the terrible blood rage curse. Before the events of the current year, 3067, the fear and awe surrounding the Zendelgas were entirely predicated on the 3 stages of this destructive transformation. The cycle begins with Phase 1, Blood Pulse. This is the standard mana transformation for Chaos Royals, where overall abilities are enhanced. It grants access to soul-bound skill sets unique to the lineage, such as tracking other royals and imbuing weapons with Crimson Chaos mana. However, this power comes at a cost, and internal decay begins during transformation, as the Chaos mana devours the body's own energy stores. Only the strongest individuals, like King Valtheron, possess the mana regeneration rate to negate this decay. The progression continues to Phase 2, Bloodlust, considered the elite phase of transformation. While Phase 1 characteristics carry over, the individual's attributes are greatly enhanced, and this phase marks the peak level achievable by the Zavareth lineages. The drawback is severe. The body's decay rate greatly increases, demanding immense energy expenditure to simply sustain the power. The ultimate and most feared level is Phase 3, Blood Rage. Once reached, the Will of Chaos possession begins. The overwhelming power radiates uncontrollably, giving the user a massive enhancement and earning the title of the Annihilator. Crucially, to enter this state is to allow the spirit of chaos to completely envelop the individual, resulting in the loss of full mental control and an unshakable desire for destruction. The visual mark of this forbidden power is permanent during transformation. Black and red mana flares pulse through the veins, accompanied by a very slow, loud heartbeat and eyes that turn a deep, dark red and black. This terrifying loss of self is why the Zendelga lineage was feared, providing a catastrophic weakness that could be triggered by traumatic events in the turbulent world of Velaris. The progenitor of this cursed bloodline was Zarvith Zendelga. Part 1. Daybreak. Enter the current year 3067. Freya and Avant are 27 years old. Once Avant became old enough, he joined up with his parents and would go on adventures to improve their strengths and techniques in blade work. In the royal lineage of Zendelga, Zayrune is the name of the weapon that all beings of the lineage own. Zayrune is a weapon that morphs based on the attributes of its wielder and is a complete manifestation of chaos mana. Over the years, Avant has been on many adventures slaying monsters with his parents, and Freya would oftentimes join them as well. Though there are many who have a difficult time looking past Avant for his bloodline in the Chaos realm, many of the people he has saved and assisted over the years think nothing of it. As for Freya Zigar, her grounded nature stemmed from her home life in Luminara, a deeply respected suburban town neighboring the Chaos capital of Velgrith. Her parents, Derek and Velmyra Zigar, were not royalty but served as pillars of capability and support for the Zendelga household. Derek Zigar, a strong, loyal, and earnest man, was a veteran military officer who defended Velgrith and became the Zendelga Royal Guard. Although he later retired to Luminara, when Freya reached her teenage years, he remained fiercely honorable and protective. Meanwhile, Velmyra Zigar was a warm, wise, and nurturing presence. She worked as a mana forging artisan and served as a leading caretaker within the Zendelga royal household. Velmyra was even responsible for forging the ceremonial mana bond rings used in the family's soulbound rituals. The loyalty and competence of the Zigar family provided an essential, reliable foundation that the powerful, yet volatile, Zendelga lineage heavily relied upon. Today is September 22nd, 3067, a regular autumn day as far as anything is concerned. Freya and Avant are spending time together with her parents at Luminara. They plan on running out for some errands around some of the outer towns in Zarvale. Avant continues to use this time to bond with Freya's parents. Though they have known each other for over 20 years, he still continues to have a keen interest in them. He's never afraid to ask more about her parents' lives. When they reach their second destination, they come to find out that monsters are attacking the small village. Quickly, the four of them intercept the monsters and wipe them out within minutes. Freya and Avant keep a tracker system within their pockets whenever they plan on leaving their hometowns, and right now it's buzzing loudly with a fearing alarm. As the broadcaster states, this is an emergency broadcast, S-level threat. All people take cover away from the outer borders. Monsters from Nemyra are invading in massive amounts. Any soldiers take arms, guide the civilians to safety closer to the capital. So much for a quiet day. The four of them immediately set foot off to the next nearby town after giving directions towards Velgreth. Though they were quick to get to the first village by accident, the second destination was not as lucky. There had already been many casualties, and these monsters were significantly stronger. When Avant checks back in on his tracking device, most of the outer parts of Zarvale are painted in red, meaning threats are detected. As Derek takes a glance over, he thinks out loud, something of this caliber has not happened in over a decade. More monsters appear, stronger than the previous wave. The tracker goes off again. An overwhelmingly powerful enemy is approaching one of the major cities. Any available units must be en route immediately. If that city were to fall, then the capital would be its next destination. We don't have any more people to support. Even King Valtheron had been summoned to fight close to the capital. I look up for a moment and see Velmyra saying something. We can handle things here, Avant. You should get over there. You're the strongest one out of all of us. Once we wrap up here, we'll get there as soon as we can. Before I knew it, I was already setting foot onward after exchanging a few words with Freya. Within minutes, I managed to get over here, but there are not any monsters here yet. Though there is something in the distance I can vaguely see walking towards me. All of a sudden, I feel an immense amount of pressure against me. Is that this monster's mana radiating from it? Whatever it is, it's not normal. This thing could level this major city easily without proper support. Before I knew it, the monster stepped up its pace and was heading straight towards me fast, and I saw someone from the city coming towards me. Get away from here. You'll die by blinking. I'll hold it off for as long as I can. Good. He heard what I said, and he's turning away from here. What a brave soul. But now this thing is prepared to kill, and its mana is suffocating me. This overwhelming power, it is beyond what I am capable of. This isn't just bad. I'm trying to reach out to the broadcaster with my tracking device, and I can't get into contact with anybody. I can't leave. All of these people will die. I can't win either, though. What do I do? Stop thinking. I have to fight, but I'm not dying here either. I just have to hold off long enough for support to arrive from the capital. As the fight rages on, he is getting brutally beaten. There is no mercy from this monster. It's gauging him at all angles. It's physically stronger, faster, and it holds this strange magical power that simply cannot be explained in nowadays terms. Broadcasters can't quite understand why the most powerful detection on the map has not moved for a few minutes now. Some of the outer villages have been able to wrap up their battles, same with Freya and her parents. The capital finally receives input that Avant Zendelga is holding the front line alone in front of the major city. Another call comes in, but it's distributed throughout the realm. It's the king. There must be another Netherion out there. I am holding my own against the one by the capital. Who is fighting the one out there? Well, sir, that's your grandson. My grandson. Avant is not strong enough. I won't make it in time. Notify the other elites now. I will not repeat the tragedy 12 years ago. Freya and her parents immediately begin running over to Avant after hearing the broadcast. Some of the elite soldiers nearby the major city, though fearful of what they were about to see, recognized Avant's courageous effort of holding the line and got within distance of seeing Avant. He's lost one arm and is kneeling over. It looks like the fight is about over. He yells out to the soldiers, "Forget about what you're about to see. I have no other choice." Avant transpires himself into the third phase of Chaos Resurgence, Blood Rage. His arm regenerates and his Chaos mana is radiating loudly. All that can be heard is the screams of agony from both Avant and the monster that he now has the upper hand against. After a few quick bursts of exchanges, he grabs onto the Netherion and prepares an ultimate technique to utterly obliterate by erupting chaos mana all around the vicinity like an explosive wave. Just before Avant explodes his mana, the Netherion claws open his heart and attach to him. The blast radius is so big that Freya and her parents were forced to turn back a moment beforehand to shelter themselves from the blast. Desolate wasteland remains, though the major city was untouched. Freya, her parents, and the elite soldiers waiting in the major city quickly rush over after the blast dissipates. By the time they get there, they find AveyaZ's body utterly obliterated from the blast, but is corrupting on the outside slightly. It's the Netherian's corruption. Some monsters were able to get to the destination first and had grabbed the Netherian to retreat. Freya's parents and the elite soldiers follow ahead, but Freya grabs Avant and rushes into the centermost part of the major city where a temple is located. As she passed by many of the people gathering around in the city streets, many of them had doom and gloom faces on them, seeing the tragedy taking place to the only person who was there in time to stop the Netherian from annihilating them all. Freya uses her tracker and calls out an emergency status to any high priest or high priestess. AveyaZ's body appears nearly lifeless. There's nothing left of his eyes. His right arm was blown off in the blast, from what appeared to be claw markings ripped out from within his chest. Freya can tell that there is still life to him yet, but he is quickly fading away. The corruption continues to spread as the small amount of life remains in his body. I hate this. He's dying, and there's nothing I can do. I'm not a saint. I can't restore these types of wounds, let alone the corruption. I'm strong, but I'm not strong enough. I couldn't fight in that battle against the Netherian, even if I wanted to. I'm so sorry, Avant. Only minutes remain within his body at best. Finally, a glimpse of hope enters. Liliana Zendelga arrives. Lily, without hesitation, begins analyzing Avant's body to see what can be done. In Freya's few but depressing words, Lily, I'm sorry. I couldn't protect him. Please save him. I will never be the same without him in my life. Lily specializes as a healer. What makes her unique as a healer is that she is of the Zendelga bloodline. Lily glances over after checking Avant over and gently eases a few words. I promise you, I will do everything I can, but I may need your help. Just follow my lead, okay? A moment before, Lily realized that when Freya reached over towards his heart at the center of the corruption, the lifelike corruption started moving outside of his body towards her hand. Though when Lily did the same, it didn't move at all. In Lily's words, when you expose your hand close enough to its centermost part, it's almost like it wants to wrap itself onto you as a new host. But for me, it does nothing. But why? Lily attempts to place her hand onto where Avant's heart should be. The corruption begins moving away from the surroundings and spreads further out. When she retracts, it slowly returns to its place. She glances up towards Freya with a look of conviction. It's repelling itself away from the mana in my veins. It must have something to do with my purifying specialty as a healer, and the power of my bloodline is allowing me to temper with Avant. I'm going to pour all of my energy into his body from the center, but I need you to transfer all of your power into me as well, Freya. This just might work if we do it right. Freya channels her mana into Lily as she channels into Phase 2 Chaos Resurgence, then thrusts all of their combined might into Avant's body as Resurgent enhances purification. Within seconds, the corruption within Avant's body begins to fade away until it is completely gone. With enough energy still in store, thanks to Freya's help, Lily casts additional healing magic to fully restore his missing arm, and once his body begins reacting to the mana being exposed by Lily's, the breath of his eyes return. Avant now rests silently laying on the cold floor of the temple, though unconscious. Freya grabs his body and pulls him close, hugging him, and gently says under her sighing breath, "Words don't express how I am feeling right now. I almost lost you. I need to become stronger. We both do. I never want to come this close to losing you again. This dangerous world can become so unforgiving so fast." She pulls him back and looks into his resting face. "I can't solve the problems of the Zendelga bloodline as an outsider. I've made my choice. I need to become one of the lineage. I will shoulder any pain with you as long as it's together." Part 2. The Soulful Companion and the Civil War. After the major incident of the Netherian nearly killing Avant, Freya Zegar decided to partake in the Zendelga ritual to become one of the bloodline, thus being granted the power of Chaos Resurgence. The path to becoming Avant's soulful companion demanded an agonizing price sealed in blood and purpose. She would undergo the ancient Zendelga soul-bound ritual to become one of the lineage. 2. The ritual required a member of the royal house to distribute their soul source via contract, and Freya accepted the contract to prove her deep attachment to Avant. Each direct member of the Zendelga bloodline can offer one soul-bound ritual to another individual, thus connecting their souls in unity. The process itself was described as grueling and incredibly painful, a terrifying induction into the power that defined the Chaos realm. Through sheer force of will and love, Freya endured the ritual. When the searing transformation was complete, she emerged reborn, bearing the Zendelga mark in her glowing red-crimson eyes and the red hue of her hair. Her very attire transformed to mimic Avant's, solidifying her new identity as his lineage disciple and his official soulful companion. The ritual did more than grant her power. It etched her unyielding resolve permanently into the lore of the Zendelga line. In her words, "If pain is the price to walk beside you, then mark me twice." 3 months have passed. Freya had decided to live with Avant in the royal household after going through with the soulbound ritual. Freya has quickly adapted to her new Chaos Resurgence transformation and can sustain within the form for a long period of time. She spends most of her time training alongside Avant as she continues to adjust to her new enhanced power. Over these 3 months, many of the people in the general public have begun showing some displeasure towards them. It all started within weeks after the major event that happened 3 months ago. Uncertain of what is going on in the public eye, Freya and Avant continue to answer quests and other responding measures for assistance within local guilds in the Chaos realm, until one day an uprising occurs. The uprising quickly turned into a full-on civil war within Zarvale. Many of the people in the general public are shouting about the Zendelga secretly manipulating people behind the scenes to leverage the government and obtain more power in order to hold its people at the stake. They believe that the Zendelgas will use their bloodline as a crutch to hold the people against their will. Though many of the elite soldiers are in disbelief, they are truly uncertain about the information and unsure what to do. The people begin rampaging the streets, and one of the well-known elite soldiers states that the Zendelgas plotted to win power in all of Parliament by using Avant's sacrifice from 3 months ago to win them justice. Outraged, the people rushed the capital city and the king's domain. The king quickly contacted his relatives to meet. After they met, it was decided that they cannot stop the people from their outrage. It's all against few, even if it all was staged. King Valtheron orders his family to leave Zarvale entirely and head to the realm of Athen, where they will need to restart their lives there. Freya happened to be with Avant when they were all called in to see King Valtheron. As they leave the king's domain, they find Freya's parents. There happened to be a jester in the back of the king's domain juggling 3 clubs, trying to make some jokes to some of the king's subordinates, but suddenly dropped one of his clubs. His voice sounds like an undersea animal if it had common speech. Is mayonnaise an instrument? Firmly grasp it. Freya's parents guide the royal family through an underground passage that lies within the Zendelga royal household that leads outside the capital city. Once they all reach the gates to Nemyra, they all say their farewells to Freya's parents and thank them for their loyalty. Freya's parents understood in the very beginning that she would be joining Avant and his relatives through Nemyra to reach Athen. Derek and Velmira Zigar pull aside Avant and Freya for one final moment and unravel a rather displeasing theory. That elite soldier who called out the Nethurian event as a hoax had a one-on-one conversation with ex-military officer Daybreak earlier in the day. The soldier mumbled quietly the words, "Falsa veritatis dater," unsure whether it's a statement or a person, but this is the only piece of information the protagonists will carry with them going into Athen. Thus the party is as follows: Avant's father, Seyavan Zendelga; Avant's mother, Rosalia Zendelga, Avant Zendelga; Freya Zigar, Avant's cousin, Liliana Zendelga, and Avant's other cousin, Draegorne Zendelga. Part 3. The Realm of Athen, Ferundel. After the uprising in Zarvale, the king was imprisoned until further notice after he had given his surrender. One of the Zavarath members had taken the throne. The new parliament was forced to consider all of the Zendelga exiled from the Chaos realm until further notice, and it was not something they wanted to do. Luna Zavareth pleaded to the Empire to reconsider their decision by using her newly pronounced title as the People's Champion but had failed. The political scene was changing rapidly as the word of the entire uprising had spread all throughout the other realms. The journey through the Nithara Gate was as anticipated, with many monsters, some of which were common in Zarvail, but the majority certainly was nothing like the protagonists had ever seen before. Their transit of less than half a day that spat the exiled Zendelga party, Avant, Freya, Saivan, Rosalia, Liliana, and Dragon out onto the northeastern territories of Ferundel. The immediate contrast was jarring, leaving the chaotic, molten landscape of Zarvail only to arrive in a territory of perpetual winter, where massive forests thrived and the air bit with the harsh reality of constant snowfall. Avant's parents, Saivan and Rosalia, had spent years cultivating powerful, albeit discreet, acquaintances across Athen. Knowing the diplomatic mission of the capital would fail them initially, they led the group directly to the Demiborn nation, banking on old respect and the value of tradition. The delegation was swiftly ushered into the presence of the Ferundel ruling council, a circle composed of leaders from various Demiborn species. The air was thick with ancient traditions and suspicion. Their strength was recognized, but the taint of chaos and the news of their exile from Zarvail precede them. To earn the people's welcoming and solidify their sanctuary, an ancient custom was invoked, one that Saivan and Rosalia themselves had fulfilled during their reconnaissance years ago, a trial by combat. Avant and Freya, ravagers bound by the ritual and inseparable in skill, were challenged to a 2 versus 2 duel against 2 of Ferundel's strongest fighters. The ensuing match was difficult, a tense exchange against opponents who knew how to leverage the natural environment. Yet, the unified power from Freya and Avant, after training together in precision for the past 3 months, proved superior. Wielding their fused might, Avant and Freya were announced victorious without sustaining major injuries. Their success earned an immediate, profound level of respect from the council and the gathered Demiborn, who valued their sense of conviction given their current predicament. As a result, the party was formally granted 1 month of refuge within Ferundel. In exchange, the Zendelgas were tasked with further training the nation's people, sharing their elite combat knowledge and the techniques established as commonplace from the Chaos realm. Over the next month, the Zendelga family became adored by the surrounding townspeople, whose appreciation for the enhancement of their nation's fighting capabilities, as well as other basic needs, provided a desperately needed sense of stability and belonging. The Demiborn can often be represented like outcasts in comparison to other species. They have a shared experience with the discrimination falling upon the Zendelga lineage of their birthright. Within the last 2 days before departure, the party consistently met with the ruling council to be explained further of how the realm of Athen is structured in totality. Thus, the party has progressed in their strengths further. At this time, the words of Falsa Veritatis Dater had no meaning at all. Nobody in Ferundel had heard of it, not even the ruling council. It hardly sounds native by any means. Part 4, The Shadow of Prosperity, the Solvara Arc. The month of respite in Ferundel granted the Zendelga party, Ahant, Freya, Liliana, and the parental Kayvon and Rosalia, a vital period of stability and combat refinement. Yet, stability was not their goal, answers were. Based on Kaevan's keen intuition, the party made the critical decision to leave the snow-dusted quiet of Ferundel and head for Solvara, the Grand Market, and neutral trade nation. They consciously chose the long route, skirting the vast, mysterious perimeter of the weeping dystopia. Though they avoided exploring the unoccupied depths, they were not spared its inhabitants. The journey became a brutal, protracted skirmish as they battled numerous monsters, spilling out near the forbidden border, a necessary prelude to the challenges ahead. Upon reaching Solvara's borders, they were met not by rustic guards, but by stern personnel overseeing barriers of advanced technologies and structure, a stark contrast to the elemental focus of Ferundel. Their appearance, the signature red hair and crimson eyes of the Zendelga line, immediately betrayed their status as exiles. The guards, recognizing the political volatility, immediately insisted they turn away, stating the nation was humbled upon their neutral purpose and could afford no conflict. Saivan, however, stood his ground. Drawing on his past reconnaissance work, he insisted he had met with the ruler in a previous time and demanded the guards contact the royal house. The ruler, Lady Virelios was successfully provoked by her cautious secretary, but ultimately accepted Kyaven's request for a short visit, provided they caused no further trouble within the nation's borders. While Sayavan and Rosalia engaged in high-stakes talks at the royal house, the younger members, Ahafant, Freya, Liliana, and Draegorne, were granted a tour of the bustling harbor city depths. The vibrant life of Solvara was immediately appealing, offering a sensory feast of floating bazaars and trade-filled shops. While out and about the general public, people had concerns about their party being allowed into their thriving city. Many of the shopkeepers certainly kept their distance, as if holding a blade behind their backs. Towards the shopping center, there was a clown juggling 5 clubs, making jokes to a crowd of people. Though while he was speaking, he accidentally made some clubs collide in the air, and they all came crashing down on his head. The jester was speaking like an undersea animal if it could talk. Is mayonnaise an instrument? Firmly grasp it. He tries to make some balloon animals, but accidentally ties his hands together. He asks for a volunteer to help him out, and when the person gets close, the jester pulls out a flower that transforms into a squirt gun and sprays at his entire audience, then takes off running and jumps into the harbor ocean. What a guy. The formal meeting secured them refuge for 1 week, during which time the Lady Ruler promised to investigate the cryptic organization known as Falsa Veritatis Dater, the purveyors of false truth. However, on the 3rd day, the temporary peace was violently shattered. Monsters, having breached the nearby Nuthera border gate, rampaged across Solvara's outskirts. Avant, Freya, Liliana, and Draegorne were immediately recruited by the local guilds to combat the escalating threat. The people decided to step past their fears for a moment and allow the powerful individuals to fight when they are needed the most. They all quickly rushed over to their destination at the borderlands. As the fight raged, 2 terrifying juggernaut-like demonic creatures wielding giant screaming mauls appeared as duo boss monsters. Though the party, fighting alongside local mercenaries, pulled through the arduous battle, casualties were tragically widespread among the locals from all of the monsters in total. The survivors were proud, thanking the outcasts profusely for their heroism, acknowledging that without the Zendelga's strength, countless people would have certainly been slaughtered. Tired and triumphant, the party returned to the capital, only to find the temporary refuge had collapsed into disaster. A major crime scene had occurred. One of the royals in the house was brutally killed. Chillingly on the wall, written in the victim's own spilled blood, were the words Falsa Veritatis Dater, Avant, along with a poor drawing of his face and his sword Z-rune, created using a highly specialized form of magic manipulation. The Lady Ruler, bound by integrity, publicly declared that Avant could not have committed the deed, as he was miles away fighting for her country at the borders. Yet the secretary, cold and ruthless, raised the true doubt that pierced the heart of the matter. But he can create a fully independent clone of himself, right? The locals called him the Twilight Ravager Axebane hero. To Avant, did you fight with your sword? The seed of suspicion was planted, transforming gratitude into terror and sanctuary into a trap. The crowd falls bitterly silent. She's right. I didn't use my sword. I hate fighting with my sword unless I have to, because it's a taunting symbol of why I am here in the first place. But how did she know I can do that? I have kept that a secret amongst the royal family household and Freya. The fragile sanctuary of Solvara collapsed with the secretary's damning question. Backed into another political wall, there was no way out. Despite her best efforts to leverage their fight against the monsters as irrefutable proof of his innocence, the ruling lady could not save Avant. The damage was done. The blood message and the accusation of using a clone were far too politically potent in a nation dedicated to sacred neutrality. Avant was formally accused of the brutal slaughter of the royal house member and was hereby banished from Solvara until further notice. The rest of his party was given no choice but to leave immediately. Only the caveat remained: they could return, but only one individual at a time, except for Avant, preventing them from traveling or working as a unit within the trade nation. The banishment was swift, an immediate departure under the watchful, hostile eyes of the border guards. Yet, as the group reached the edge of the perimeter, Lady Virelios herself appeared, having circumvented protocol, to offer a final counsel. Her voice was low and urgent, carrying the conviction of the truth. There's something brewing behind the scenes here, and it's all stemming from something much bigger than we imagine, she stated, her eyes sharp with political acumen. She promised to maintain contact with AveyaZ and Rosalia, acknowledging them as the safe diplomatic link. Then, fixing her gaze upon the burdened protagonist, she delivered her final instruction: Avant. Please don't waver on your path. We'll figure out what's really going on here. They must be using you as a target for a reason. Freya, please continue to be his soulful companion to the bitter end. Caravan would tell me about the two of you long ago, and you have both become quite powerful than I had realized. The final game-changing instruction was delivered. She had already reached out to Prince Valen Calva, the heir of House Calva in the capital nation of Virelios. Go there and demand that I have you all meet with him. The next destination, driven by a destiny they could not escape, was set. Virelios, seat of the Golden Law, the most closely scrutinized and politically conservative nation in all of Athen. For a party of exiled chaos born now, framed for regicide, the idea of demanding an audience with the prince heir sounded like a terrible idea. But with the neutrality of Solvara revoked and the accusation of falsa veritatis dater hanging over them, it was the only direction left to run toward. Onward to Virelios. Part 5. Darker Truths, the Virelios Arc. The journey from Solvara to the capital city of Aralexia in Virelios was the easiest the party had undertaken yet. The path consisted of open routes of flatlands and a meticulously paved road, ensuring that not a single monster ambush broke the silence. Yet, this easy trip offered no true relief. The political complexities and the bitter sting of injustice continued to provide struggle within their own right. The chilling truth that they were constantly missing the source of their misfortune by mere moments loomed heavily over them. As the party reached the borderlands of Virelios, the nation's superior defense became immediately apparent. The border bristled with far more formidable security compared to Solvara, demonstrating that Virelios certainly didn't miss the budget marks for their military defense. Before any guards could stop their advance, they were met by Prince Valen Calva himself. Valen, the heir of Virelios, was a notable warrior who certainly looked the part. However, he appeared utterly displeased and greeted the Zendelgas with palpable resentment. Valen struggled to comprehend why Lady Ashen, the ruling lady of Solvara, would arrange any meeting for people associated with a notorious criminal, directly referencing the murder charge. Saev and Zendelga met the prince's gaze unflinchingly. My son would never become a criminal. Do you really expect my son and my descendant to be immoral? Valen accepted the truth of Saev and Zendelga's attributed character, having met him in the past during his reconnaissance work in the realms. He trusted the father, but this was the first time he had ever met the accused son, Avant. Kaivan filled Valen in with their perspective of everything that had been happening since the uprising in Zarvale, detailing the Falsa Veritatis Data Group's actions and the precise circumstances of the frame-up in Solvara. Though Valen still harbored some form of resentment towards Avant, finding it hard to picture someone of high moral character ever being put into such a scenario, he made a conscious decision to put the thought to rest for now, choosing instead to trust in Saevin's proven integrity. I'll request an audience with my father and the ruler, Victor Calva. Valen openly stated his commitment firming. I have no guarantees about this at all. I honestly don't think I can do anything to support you publicly, but I'm taking this seriously. Valen revealed he had an unexpected resource. I have an assassin for hire, Cypher Hex, that I have worked with for several years to do some deeds that I would not otherwise be able to. He will look into this Falsa Veritatis Dater to secure their safety while the negotiations were underway. Valen unveiled a practical safeguard. For now, let's speak with my father and gain a temporary stay for all of you. I brought these mana-fused cloaks that will conceal your presence from onlookers, yet another trait of working with an assassin. The cloaks were distributed, the Zendelgas were concealed, and they began their fraught journey into the heart of the capital under the dubious protection of the Prince Heir. The highly anticipated audience with High Arbiter Victor Calva and his wife, Lady Serylin Calva, was granted mere hours after the Zendelga party's arrival. Despite Lady Ashen's urgent pleading and Prince Valen's reluctant intercession, the meeting ended in major disagreement. Victor Calva, primary ruler and divine judge of Virelios, could not and would not be seen granting sanctuary to an exile framed for a royal murder. regardless of how thin the evidence was. The Golden Law demanded stability, and the Zendalgus represented political chaos. Ultimately, the compromise was a stark one. King Victor allowed for them to recuperate for 24 hours within a secluded wing of the palace. Crucially, none of them were allowed to enter the public eye. If any of them were noticed, they would be immediately arrested and imprisoned for entering Virelios. Only some of the caretakers within the royal capital would be aware of their existence. Freya and Avant found a measure of calm in their isolation. Sitting together in an open room, they stared outside a large window that looked as if it could serve as a secluded door to the world, watching the rain fall calmly. The quiet moment together prompted them to reminisce, discussing the memories of living separately back in the capital of Zarvail, Velgreth, and the suburban town of Luminara, before finally deciding to live together for a short time. The easy flow of their history settled Avant's churning thoughts. He looked over to Freya, the person who had bound her destiny to his through the painful soulbound ritual, and spoke a few words that came straight from his heart. What a strange world we live in. This seems like a story only written in books. There's a lot that I missed back then in Zarvail. Those were simple times back then. I would do everything I can to become the best version of myself and continue to improve so that I would then do better for others. Freya, I have known you for most of my life, and I really don't know a life without you. In whatever dimensional time frame that is, I never want to experience that. I don't just care for you. I don't know what I would do without you. Don't get me wrong, I think I could always bounce back from my troubles. I recognize where my strengths are. No matter what happens, stay with me, and I will always be there for you. If you struggle, call me. If you lay somewhere dying and are fading away, shout for me and I will be there. As long as we remain close by, we will be at our strongest. I have your new Zigar's blessing to thank for that. Avant's words of loyalty and reliance, a testament to the new bond they shared, were the calm before the next storm. Within an hour, as everyone in the party busied themselves with various tasks, the assassin working for Prince Valen returned, bringing with him a disturbing lead. One of Valen's own close companions had been abducted, and a request had been given to a local guild by the man's wife about screaming that had been heard near a cave around the borders of Virelios. The screaming is suspected to be linked to the disappearance. Valen and Cypher agreed immediately to keep this operation discreet and off the royal records. They requested only 4 members to join the mission. With the dire need for secrecy and action, Avant, Freya, Liliana, and Draegorne took their leave, heading out to the destination presented in the guild request after Prince Valen had received formal approval from his parents in secrecy. Their short period of rest was over. The exiled Zendalgus were already drawn back into conflict. The party of 7, Avant, Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, Prince Valen, Cypher, and the abductor's distraught wife named Lyra Axton, arrived at the cave near the Virelios border under the cloak of night. The tension was immediate. Even without entering the darkness, the ground surrounding the entrance was churned with massive track imprints and clear footsteps, unmistakable signs of numerous monsters. But as they ventured inside, they realized this was no ordinary small cavern. The landmass was enormous. Ornaments infused with mana light up the interior, casting eerie glows across the rock faces and illuminating vast, cathedral-like pathways. The first sight confirmed their fears and raised alarming questions. Monsters trampled the vicinity, but these were not commonplace creatures. These were resurrections from a sorcerer's dark art, their movements stiff, their eyes glowing with unnatural life. The sheer number of these resurrected creatures indicated a vast operation, strongly suggesting the presence of multiple sorcerers working in concert. Before they could fully process the tactical implications, they encountered the true obstacle: large, physically imposing figure positioned at the center of the first gigantic vicinity. It was a possessed and corrupted warrior known only as the Legion, a creature so rare it was relegated to mere mention in monster identification legend novels. As the group systematically wiped out the lesser resurrected monsters, they approached the massive Legion. Recognizing the imminent threat, the Legion activated an ultimate skill, the Harbingers of Destiny. A searing light peered from within the corrupted night, instantaneously casting a barrier like trapping mechanism that sealed the walls and paths, locking the group inside. In a terrifying display of power, the Legion then began to morph, duplicating itself until 7 identical Legion Knights stood before them, one for every member of the opposition. The implication was clear: a death match, perfectly balanced and designed for their utter annihilation. Avant surveyed the 7 fiends, then glanced briefly at his diverse but unprepared companions, Cypher, Lyra, and even Prince Valen. The sight solidified the primal fury that always simmered just beneath his strategic composure. He focused his deep crimson gaze on the original Legion, his voice low but sharp with raw discontentment. "We have no choice but to fight. You want to fight, you bastard. I'll bring you a war and you won't be deserving of a burial. Killing you won't change me." The fight for their lives had just begun. All of the Zendalgas transformed into Phase 2 of Chaos Resurgence, Bloodlust, and the others prepare by focusing in on their mana transfers as well. Their senses sharpened, their raw attributes greatly enhanced, providing a necessary edge against the 7 legions. While the others prepared by focusing on their mana transfers and supportive arts, the battle became a brutal, thrashing display of power. Every hit the legions took spilled away precious mana energy, dissipating into the cavern air as if their very essence was volatile. The frontlining cast, Avant, Freya, and Prince Valen, exchanged blows with the knights, supported by the all-purpose assassin. In the back, Liliana and Lyra sustained their continuous injuries with healing arts, while Draegorne covered their positions. Blood was spilled from every hit taken, and the continuous casting of ultimate techniques from the entire group meant bodies were relentlessly flung against the walls. For 20 minutes, the engagement was a crucible of raw power. Though the exhaustion bore heavily upon the non-chaos representatives, Valen, Cypher, and Lyra, the Zendelga royals were human beings uniquely sustained by their transformation. Maintaining Chaos Resurgence allowed them to never feel fatigue as long as they remained in the state. But this came at the ongoing cost of their slow mana decay. At this point, the Zendelgas were at about 90% capability of maintaining even their lesser Phase 1 Blood Pulse state without reverting to recover. Their sustained performance signaled a major step. They were slowly becoming masters of combat. The battle finally came to a close as the final legion dissipated into wisps of dark smoke. As the exhausted party surveyed the scene, an additional entryway shimmered into existence. Cautiously, they entered one at a time, finding a chamber of horror. Piles of skulls and bones littered the floor, serving as gruesome relics of the sorcerer's past work. Lying on the ground was the abducted man. Julian Axton immediately recognized by his wife Lyra. His life force was visibly drained, leaving him hollow. Liliana instantly recognized the dark marking printed on the center of his upper chest, a brand only Tier 4 class sorcerers were capable of administering. The symbol eliminated all restorative capabilities, both those received from others and those the beholder might generate. The grim diagnosis was delivered. The brand could only be removed in one of 2 ways. The first required high mana fusion mastery with purification magic, level neither Liliana nor Lyra Axton possessed. The second, brutal method was the only viable path: kill the caster. Julian Axton pleads with them to kill him and end his suffering, for what he had witnessed is beyond tragedy. He stops talking as he attempts to open his eyes and recognizes the people standing before him. Avant leans down next to the man and begins to speak. "As it would turn out, my future wife really enjoys being around your wife. I am not the type to disappoint my lady friend either. Judging by how you are acting now, you must realize who we are. My name is Avant Zendelga. These are my other relatives, and I have already mentioned Freya. We can save you, but I have a request. Freya and I will train you, and your wife to become much stronger. I notice you have an affinity for chaos attributes. I want to experiment something with you when this is all over." After Avant introduces himself and his proposition, the man realizes that he may have a chance after all to be restored to normal. His wife already in agreement from the beginning of Avant mentioning the proposition, the man accepts Avant's proposal. Prince Valen believes he has no say in the matter given that his dear friend's life will continue because of the outcast's help. The group's shared sense of injustice hardened their resolve. The immediate goal was clear: locate and kill the sorcerer who had dragged them out here in this deadly mess, the one who had condemned Julian and potentially framed Avant. Determined to free the man from his curse, they continued their aggressive advance, seamlessly wiping out the remaining resurrected monsters. They quickly advanced down to the deepest part of the cavern system, Arriving at the end of the natural pathways, they found another immense location. A space so vast, it resembled the corroded skeleton of an underground village, its stonework eaten away by time and darkness. No sooner had the party stepped into this desolate basin than a magical circle appeared, covering the entire vicinity of the village ruins. The circle instantly ignited the entire space in a jarring dusk violet light, and a fog like radiating mana energy began to rise, clinging to the ancient walls and pooling across the floors. The air itself grew heavy and charged. "Well, we've entered their domain," Cypher murmured, recognizing the signature energy required to maintain such an immense magical field. From the swirling violet mist, the sorcerer finally materialized, flanked by 3 heavily armored elite figures. The first was a massive, physically imposing flame dragonic armored demi-human who dual-wielded a gleaming sword and a heavy battle axe. Beside him stood a dark sage, a figure whose power was evident in the fusion of their scythe with their staff, an alarming blend of ranged magic and melee. The last was a knight clad in an intimidating Dark Templar outfit, secured by chain vests, who dual-wielded a lance and a secondary scythe. The sorcerer fixed the party with a cold stare, his voice echoing with calculated malice, "Those who enter my domain cannot leave alive. For we are the elites of the cult of Varnaxes, and Falsa Veritatis Dater would certainly execute us all if word were to exit this place." The fate of the Zendelga party, and the truth behind the frame-up, hinged on the confrontation about to unfold. As the sorcerer finished his defiant declaration, condemning the party as necessary casualties for the cult of Varnaxes and Falsa Veritatis Dater, he made a tactical maneuver that changed the fight. He removed the Tier 4 sorcerer branding from the chest of Julian Axton. This act, done to ensure the caster was at full strength, was an immediate lifeline. Julian, a formidable Tier 3 sword fighter, immediately joined the party, adding much-needed offensive power. Each of these 4 enemies are Tier 4 Ascended Tier beings. The ensuing battle against the sorcerer and his 3 elite guards, the Dragonic Demi-Human, the Dark Sage, and the Dark Templar Knight, was total war. The party, fueled by the Zendelga's sustained bloodlust and their new allies' desperate skill, fought with ferocious synergy. Against the odds of the cult's elite forces, the combined strength of the 8 Tier 3 elite tier fighters alike prevailed, concluding with the victory of the protagonists and no casualties on their side. Before the sorcerer was executed, he delivered a final, chilling revelation. This was all a ploy to test the strength of Avant and Freya. This confirmation instantly connected the cave battle back to the larger political framing in Solvara and the uprising in Zarvale. As the party prepared to deliver the finishing blow, Prince Valen received an urgent, immediate communication. A large-scale invasion had randomly appeared near the southern borders of Virelios. The group instantly realized the terrible truth: the sorcerer's test was a time distraction. They assumed this invasion must be the work of the other sorcerers and elites involved with the cult of Varnaxes, moving their forces into position for a full-scale assault on Athens' capital. Without a moment's rest, the group immediately headed out toward the disaster zone. The invading forces, composed of the remaining sorcerers and other elites of the cult of Varnaxes, had quickly broken down the surrounding outer defensive wall and began rampaging along the outskirts of Virelios. The southernmost city was already under major peril. As the main military offensive from the capital, or Alexia, responded to the siege, the group arrived. While still concealed by their mana-fused cloaks, they surveyed the scene, then quickly removed their cover to resume the battle. The conflict immediately escalated. Summoners continued calling forth endless waves of monsters, and the cult's elites were powerful, holding their own against the initial push of the Virelios noble army. The group, having just proven their worth to Prince Valen, were once again thrust into the thick of the fight. The Zendelga party fought with unrestrained, destructive intensity. Though masked by their mana-fused cloaks until moments before engagement, their signature crimson eyes, powerful red hair, and the pulsing energy of chaos resurgence immediately drew the eyes of the Virelios noble army and the citizens who fought alongside them. Whispers and looks of displeasure spread through the ranks. The Zendelga name carried a shadow of betrayal and destructive potential. Recognizing the political liability and the need for unity, Prince Valen Calva moved swiftly. Using a specialized broadcasting device, he issued an immediate alert to the noble army. His voice, clear and commanding, announced that he had hired the Zendelga lineage disciples to assist them in the fight against the cult of Varnaxis, stressing that their immense, destructive power was necessary to cutting a swift end to the large-scale invasion. Though many soldiers still showed deep displeasure at trusting the Chaosborn, they were bound by their fealty, nodding away in understanding and choosing to fight in Prince Valen's name. The combination of the disciplined Virelios army and the savage power of the Zendelga group proved immediately effective. The combined force was able to pressure the neighboring advance, holding the front line and preventing the cult's forces from breaching further into the kingdom's vulnerable outskirts. Yet, the enemy was not yet defeated. In the near distance, an air of dread solidified as 5 Tier 4 master creatures were summoned. Each of them was a terrifying, slightly different skeleton Grim Reaper, towering and radiating a palpable sense of death and destruction. The group, recognizing the existential threat these masters posed to the integrity of the borderline defenses and the Virelios army, immediately charged the Reapers without hesitation. The battle against the 5 Reapers was a whirlwind of deadly energy. Avant and Freya, fueled by Phase 2 Chaos Resurgence Bloodlust, moved like crimson streaks, their dual weapons slashing with chaotic precision, attempting to neutralize the enemy's tier advantage with raw speed and ferocity. Liliana supported their aggressive assault with powerful, well-placed magics, while Valen and Cypher leveraged their precision and maneuverability to strike at weak points. The Reapers were ascended tier creatures, their scythes cutting through the air with high-velocity speed, forcing the group to rely on continuous mana transfers and coordinated defense. However, the relentless power and unified effort of the 8 specialized combatants proved too much even for the Tier 4 ascendants, and one by one, the skeleton Grim Reapers were shattered, dissolving into dark motes of mana energy before they could fully breach the defensive line. The final, chilling threat arrived. 5 remaining summoners materialized in the distance, escorting a single, unsettling figure, a jester. The jester bowed with mocking politeness, commending the Zendelga party and their allies for their continued, stubborn efforts. He revealed the true nature of the siege. The head boss of the cult of Varnaxis merely wished to test their strengths to see if they were yet ready for the upcoming finality. The laughter died in the air as the jester shed his buffoonish disguise, revealing himself to the group as Falsa Veritatis Dater, the purveyor of false truth, the mastermind behind Avant's frame-up. The challenge was personal, and Falsa Veritatis Dater immediately commended himself to battle. Before the first blow could be struck, the air cracked with arcane energy as Falsa Veritatis Dater activated his ultimate skill, Ungodly Competition. He drew a hyper-mana-fused broadsword, a weapon pulsing with stolen energy, and his form transformed instantly into a formidable mage fighter Black Templar. The source of his sudden, overwhelming power was immediately revealed. He had forcefully stolen 30% of the strength from each of the 5 summoners. Then he casts his other manipulation skill called Mood-Changing Aura. The Templar then recoordinates his allies to continue fighting for him without any notice of deception. The now weakened summoners, in a desperate, unified act of self-preservation, channeled their remaining energy to create 5 massive pillars of sigil that began continuously summoning additional minor skeleton knights and reapers to assist them. The summoners permanently sacrificed their ability to summon any further creatures, but were now free to focus their entire efforts on direct combat alongside their terrifying new leader. The tactical priority shifted immediately to neutralizing the Horde, while Avant and Freya concentrated their Ravager synergy to hold off the relentless aggression of Falsa Veritatis Dater, Prince Valen, Cypher, and the newly allied Tier 3 sword fighter executed a focused counterattack. Valen directed the efforts, utilizing the assassin's silent precision and the allies' desperate strength to identify the anchor points supplying the continuous stream of minor skeletal knights and reapers. One by one, the energy of the summoning pillars was targeted and dismantled. As the final structure shattered, the deluge of low-tier foes immediately ceased. Now, the 5 former summoners, who were now fighting as dedicated Tier 4 ascended combatants, found themselves exposed without their endless meat shield. The Zendelga party quickly divided their focus, with Liliana delivering targeted strikes while the allies secured the melee kills. swiftly eliminating the 5 remaining elites and clearing the chaotic environment for the final, decisive confrontation. All focus converged on the towering figure of Falsa Veritatis Dater. The Black Templar, wielding his stolen power and hyper-mana-fused broadsword, was now entirely isolated, a formidable ascended figure driven by sheer malicious intent. Though the sorcerers have fallen, Falsa's enhanced state remains from ungodly competition. Avant and Freya knew this opponent had to be fought with unity. Every defensive move, every offensive strike, was dictated by their practiced Ravager synergy. Falsa Veritatis Dater's blade movements, backed by the combined weight of 5 powerful foes, were devastatingly efficient, demanding the Zendelgas push into the ragged edge of their Chaos Resurgence limit in Phase 2 Bloodlust. In the final, synchronized assault, the Becliners unleash a combined impairing onto Falsa. Unable to move further, Freya and Avant completely synchronized unleash in multiple succession, a dual slamming of their weapons, fused together into their opponent in multiple succession shattering bones, latching hands together and channeling all of their energy into an enormous explosive wave of energy that would evaporate lower tier enemies instantly. This is their dual ultimate technique, Soulbound Nova. The Falsa Veritatis Dater, the mastermind of the Zendelga frame-up, collapsed, his hyper-mana fused broadsword dissolving into dust as the stolen power fled his form and he returned to normal. Before anything further can draw out of the situation, 2 massive teleportation circles ignited simultaneously. The first appeared beneath Avant and Falsa Veritatis Dater, ripping them from the floor and transporting them instantly to the closest outer city near the caves. The second circle was the immediate threat. It summoned 7 Tier 4 Ascended Tier fighters from the Cult of Varnaxis directly to the main party's location. The tables had been impossibly turned. The exhausted 7 Tier 3 fighters, Avant's allies, were now catastrophically outmatched. One of the new cultists spoke, his voice cold and commanding, stating they were not there to get involved in violence. The irony was devastating. The destruction was not needed because the scene was already playing out where it mattered most. In the outer city, Avant landed ready to fight, but before he could react, he was ambushed by other cult members waiting in the wings. He handled the initial skirmish with ease, clearing the path, but the true threat was Falsa. The mastermind backed away, coldly activating ungodly competition once again, turning on his own. He completely devoured the power from a nearby friendly cultist, leaving the body hollow and instantly transforming back into the formidable Dark Templar. This time, the attack wasn't for power, it was for cover. Falsa gestured to Avant to hold still, raising a thick barrier around the two of them, just as a high surge of mana began erupting from nearby. Avant watched in horror as 10 other cult members in the distance were completely enveloped in the lethal mana, their bodies suffocating under the uncontrolled energy. Then, with a deafening, world-shattering roar, the stored mana on their bodies detonated, an explosive force that completely obliterated the city and everything around it. Falsa's barrier held, sheltering Avant from the devastating blast. Falsa Veritatis Dater glanced back, having reverted to the form of the jester. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Before Avant could move or retaliate, someone who had been supposedly standing behind Falsa finished casting a teleportation circle to escape. The two vanished, leaving Avant alone as the remainder of the blast was still in upheaval, with Falsa's mocking grin as their final insult. Avant quickly reacted in the face of annihilation, channeling his remaining mana to shield himself from the continuing eruption of the blast. When the explosive force finally dissipated, there was nothing left behind but a desolate, smoldering wasteland where the vibrant outer city of Virelios had stood moments before. Avant was the only figure remaining in the battlefield, a solitary silhouette against the ruin. The silence was immediately broken by the roaring sound of a helicopter overhead, a broadcaster, and Avant was caught in full, undeniable view of the camera. Alone and conspicuous amid the total destruction, he had become the singular, globally broadcasted face of the atrocity. Back where the group remains, the 7 Tier 4 cultists received a silent message. Their work was complete, and they were free to leave. Since they lacked the rapid escape capability of teleportation, they quickly dispersed and rushed away from their destination, calculating correctly that the outmatched Tier 3 party would be unable and unwise to pursue, but the true weight of the disaster was sinking in for the remaining allies. Prince Valen Calva heard a piercing alert from his device, its automated voice shouting the devastating news. Avant Zendelga has blown up an entire city in Virelios, caught on footage. The successful framing, the devastating power, and the immediate public exposure meant all diplomatic hope in Virelios was instantly extinguished. Miles away, standing alone in the ruins of the obliterated city, Avant heard a familiar, urgent voice break through the noise in his mind. Freya was contacting him telepathically, her message clear and desperate. They needed to reunite southeast from their location towards Draegorne immediately, as things could no longer be salvaged in the capital nation. Valen contacted Saevan and Rosalia with his device and told them to meet up with us at Draegorne's capital. Filled with crushing discontentment at the injustice and desperation at the sudden loss of everything, Avant focused his dwindling mana reserves to reconstruct the mana-fused cloak he had received from Valen for concealment. The exile was complete, and the fugitive hero rushed out of the area, leaving the wreckage behind to face the terrible fate his enemies had orchestrated. That rotting bastard. If I wasn't screwed before, then I really am now. Draegorne, the place where strength matters over politics. If I can't win through diplomacy, maybe we can still win through strength. I can't waver for even a moment. I can see that stupid clown mocking me while I am here debating with myself. There must still be something I can do. How can I best use my poor reputation to my advantage? They still have faith in me. I won't back down. I will see this through to the very end. Mark my words, clown, I'll see you again. Part 6, Strength Through Struggle, the Draegorne Arc. The reunion was swift and silent. Avant reunited with the team after the city incident. Only beings possessing a high degree of insight would be capable of identifying the group beneath the shimmer of the concealing magic. They fell into step with a small adventurers party traveling between Draegorne and Virelios, forming an informal escort, maintaining that they too were merely adventurers. The journey to Draegorne proved remarkably simple. It was the founding reason of the guild and gladiator nation, and the flow of transient fighters meant their arrival drew no undue scrutiny. They made their way directly to the capital, reuniting with Kaivan and Rosalia Zendelga, who awaited them and were also concealed in the same cloaks. Having learned their lesson in Virelios, there was no need to seek out any political leaders. They were visiting, relying on discretion. Fortunately, Prince Valen had a fair amount of personal earnings, which he used to rent a discreet property for them to stay in, while remaining in Draegorne. For the next month, the group spent their time immersed in the nation's core economy, doing reconnaissance work for guilds and taking quests. In Draegorne, unlike the more structured nations, official registration was not a strict requirement, so long as proof of the job was done, a perfect loophole for political fugitives. They continued to grow stronger, often separating into smaller teams to maximize their income, stay hidden among the shadows, and hone their unique skills through varied combat scenarios. However, the uneasy peace broke during a major split operation, a rescue mission disguised as a monster hunt. While Kaivan, Rosalia, Cypher, Julian, and Lyra continued to finish the vital rescue operation, trouble arose on the southernmost part of Draegorne where the Nithra Gate is. An alarm was raised. Another monster attack was appearing from Nithra, replicating the size and terrifying scale of the invasion that struck the Chaos Realm several months ago. This was no mere skirmish. This was a war-level event designed to overwhelm the nation's defenses. Recognizing the unprecedented threat, the other party members, Avant, Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, and Valen made the tactical decision to leave the rescue operation and rush immediately to the location of the Nithra Gate. The moment the 5 fighters arrived at Draegorne's southern border, they plunged immediately into the fray. True to Draegorne's foundational principles, there was no designated noble army, but rather countless mercenary teams fighting in a joint, disorganized but effective effort. The battle was going surprisingly smoothly. Having been training hardcore for the past month, the party's individual and synchronized strengths had dramatically taken notice. The fight was considerably easier than any large-scale combat they had faced before, a testament to their month of focused training in the Gladiator Nation. This early success, however, was shattered when a Nithra super being emerged from the gate, immediately followed by several Tier 4 Ascended Tier monsters. The being fixed its immense attention on the party, closing the distance rapidly. Avant, Valen, and Draegorne, recognizing the need to manage the perimeter, peeled off to assist other local mercenary lords, leaving Freya and Liliana to handle the massive beast. As the being closed in, the ladies noticed unnerving characteristics. It was rather human in its structure and movement. Liliana, who had been considerably working on improving her sword skills since coming into Draegorne, chose to fight with a mana-fused sword staff. The longer they fought, the more they realized the beast vaguely fought like a bladezerker, blending a sword and an axe. Thankfully, Zagar's blessing still remained active on Freya, lending her the resilience and determination to nearly handle the fight solo. As the encounter progressed, Avant, Valen, and Draegorne finished clearing the last horde of monsters and rushed over to assist the ladies. But before they could fully engage, the beast paused. Its voice, clear and cold with human inflection, cut through the battle. "I never thought we would meet again." The simple statement sent a profound chill down Avant's spine, a deep sense of dread confirming that this was no random encounter. Freya, however, was immediately fueled with a blinding rage, recognizing the personal nature of the threat. She thrashed back at the beast with all her power, but it deflected her furious impacts with an unnerving ease. It's almost as if the beast was stronger all of the sudden. "It can't be. Are you that beast? The Netherian? What happened to you? You're no longer some Netherian. You're an abomination of me. You fight just like a bladezerker. This cannot be real. Out of all the things I could find in my life, yet here we are seeing one of the worst versions of me that could ever exist." The creature paused, its human-like gaze unnervingly fixed on Avant and Freya. Its voice, still tinged with an alien resonance, offered a shocking confession. It was, in fact, the Netherian that had nearly killed Avant several months ago. Confirming Freya's immediate, burning rage was entirely justified. The creature revealed that after the original battle, when it had briefly latched onto Avant's heart, it had copied over some DNA in order to recreate itself. The super being was effectively a mimic that transformed based on its devouring nature. This was why it had immediately noticed Avant when it entered Draegorne. The closer it came in proximity, the more it could feel the mimic of Avant's mana energy radiating from him, and as that energy continued to resonate within itself, it was fastly becoming capable of human speech. The creature further explained that its leadership role in the battle was forced. Across the Nithra, the species was undergoing a profound evolutionary shift. Other creatures, capable of mimicking, were emerging and learning self-governance as well. This schism was causing a war amongst the monster species within the Nithra. While many creatures still followed the masses mindlessly, a select, terrifying few were finding the capability to self-govern, leading to intense internal predicaments. The species was, undeniably, evolving. The beast's proposal was direct. It was leading this chaotic incursion against the wishes of its self-governing community, which was currently under siege. It requested the Zindelga party accompany it into the Nethera to wipe out the opposing monsters attempting to slaughter the self-governing community the beast had managed to create. While the creature could not stop the forces already rampaging through Draegorne, their immediate collaboration in the Nithra would annihilate the rest of the attacking mass at its source, ending the invasion entirely. The team understood. They were outcasts in Athen, with one of them being an uber-framed criminal with nowhere left to run, leaving them no political leverage. Accepting the impossible bargain, the team immediately turned toward the swirling darkness of the Nethera gate and dispatched into the monster realm. Before they leaped through the gate, there was a person that could not stop laughing and muttering to himself, with two other companions also fighting amongst the teams that were watching their every move. The funny guy mutters that the goofy goober is getting away, but now he has a keepsake photo from memory. The party surged through the Nithra gate, the transition immediate and jarring. They were immediately swallowed by a raging mana storm, the air thick with chaotic energy. The battlefield on the other side, in Draegorne, suddenly looked minor in comparison. Monsters were brawling it out as far as the eyes could see. It was a massive, lethal vortex of combat, confirming the suspicion that Nithera could be just as large as Athen, though the true scope remained unknown even to the greatest scholars. The self-governing Netherian mimic, tagging along, immediately broadcasted alerts to its ally monsters, signaling that the Zendelga team were companions to the community. The team had been fighting for an hour. They overwhelmed countless monsters with relative ease, yet the scope of the battle was immense, forcing them to constantly shift between offensive surges and defensive stands, often fighting near the broken-down ruins of what appeared to be ancient civilization, silent testaments to past battles lost within the Nebula Zone. During a brief moment of relative calm, Avant's strategic mind yielded to the sheer absurdity of their situation. He glanced over at the Mimic, who was desperately trying to maintain its human guise as if looking a bit unsettled. Avant cracked a joke, a rare moment of levity amidst the destruction. Now that you can speak, you got a name. At least let me name you, for crying out loud. You did get to be what you are because of me. I should get the privilege if you're going to look and act like me. Couldn't be any worse than what I had already gone through so far in my life. But if you start barking like a dog, I might have to put you down. I will call you Vantus Rendelga, my corrupted copy. For the moment, the super beast appeared content as if accepting its new name with generosity. The urgency of the moment returned with the sight of their primary target. Commanding the opposing horde was an enormous Hydra monster, piloted by a human-sized individual who was clearly the one ordering the attack. The team immediately broke into a new, concerted offensive, driving deep into the massive brawl. They had a singular objective: annihilate the human-like commander, and the Hydra to secure the survival of the self-governing Mimic community and halt the invasion force currently ravaging Draegorne. The battle immediately fused the unlikely allies Avant, Freya, Liliana, Druangan, Valen, and Vantus Rendelga into a single, destructive unit. Vantus, channeling its unique corrupted mana, acted as a chaotic vanguard, tearing through the indiscriminate monster swarm and forcing them into concentrated groups. Avant and Freya, capitalizing on this chaos, unleashed the full force of their Ravager synergy. They became a crimson whirlwind of controlled destruction, their combined weapons eliminating countless lower-tier enemies with each powerful strike. In this environment, Vantus's knowledge of the terrain and the swarm's weaknesses proved invaluable. The primary threat was the enormous Hydra and the human-sized individual commanding the attack. The team used Vantus to draw the Hydra's colossal focus, while Avant and Freya executed their synchronized attack on the commander. Liliana provided perfect, precise magical support, targeting the commander's defensive spells, while Drugan maintained a protective yet offensive perimeter. Valen is able to launch consecutive strikes towards the heads of the Hydra with his spell Weaved Sword of Equilibrium Conviction. Together, Liliana and Drugan launched a dual ultimate technique called Ignis Landai, transforming the area within 30 meters into a fully erupting zone with modified variants of their Zerun constantly impaling the commander. With the commander neutralized, the massive Hydra monster immediately lost its controlling will and devolved into an uncontrollable, self-destructive rage. This created the perfect opening for the other team members to coordinate precise attacks on the Hydra to finish it off. With the human commander and the Titanic Hydra destroyed, the central command of the attacking monster mass instantly dissolved. The remaining horde, left without direction, began to scatter and retreat. The alliance with Vantus Rendelga had secured the survival of his self-governing community and successfully halted the massive invasion force that was currently ravaging Draegorne. The mission was a resounding, bloody success. Though they had forged an alliance with the creature born from Avant's own essence, the path back to Draegorne and the unstable political climate they had left behind was clear. The great war against the evolving threat of Mithra had just begun. The Zendelga team finally returned to the safety of their rental property, finding Avan and Rosalia waiting with expressions etched by both relief and deep worry. The invasion had ended over an hour ago, and they had been preparing for the worst. The group quickly shed their disguises and their secrecy, filling in the parents with the entire unbelievable events. The revelation that the Netherian is alive and a super being capable of speech, now named by Avant as Vantus Rendelga, and the unorthodox tactical alliance forged to save the evolved Mimic community and halt the main invasion mass. It was a tale of desperation and heroism, but one that strained the very limits of credibility. A secret demand arrived from the mercenary lord who governed Draegorne, an ultimatum demanding a private visitation with the Zendelga party. The terms were absolute. If they chose not to comply, they would all be permanently banned from Draegorne for an eternity. Knowing that this nation built on strength was their one of the last viable sanctuary in Athen, the Zendelga team immediately chose to follow suit, ready to face whatever judgment the mercenary lord intended to pass. The reason for the urgent summons was swiftly uncovered. Photo evidence was circulating. The evidence showed Avant, the fugitive terrorist already blamed for destroying a city, talking to the Nemyra monster as if they were friends, before both subsequently entered the Nemyra gate together. The political sphere and the general public were completely baffled by the optics of this event. In the atmosphere of post-invasion paranoia, most found it to be no surprise at all that a corrupt human being who had decided to blow up an entire city had somehow found a way to forge an alliance with Nemyra monsters, the very creatures that threatened all of Athen. This shocking image solidified Avant's public condemnation, branding him not just as a criminal, but as an ally of the enemy. The secret meeting with the mercenary lord of Draegorne was not the hostile interrogation the Zendelga party had feared. Instead, they found an unexpectedly informed and pragmatic ally. The lord was not interested in the political farce playing out across the continent. He acknowledged that the group had voluntarily taken part in the battle along the borders and saved a lot of people. He was fully aware that all of this was consistent framing behind the scenes that inevitably could not be stopped. This clarity stemmed from his close contact with Lady Ashen of Solvara, confirming a discreet alliance between the two neutral powers. While the Lord was firmly on the side of the Zendelgas, he was direct about his limitations. The political power he possessed was rooted in strength, not bureaucracy, and it was not enough to publicly defy the entire Athenian accord. The Lord offered not public pardon, but a lifeline aimed at ensuring their continued ascent toward Tier 4. He provided two key pieces of strategic information. First, he revealed the existence of a citadel within the capital, a specialized facility available to fighters who had reached certain class requirements designed to enhance their abilities. The group noted that there were similar citadels in Virelios and even back in Velgrith, but they had been unnecessary to visit until now. The second, more monumental revelation was that Draegorne intended to branch out the same citadel technologies to other nations in the very near future. Finally, the Lord tasked them with their next objective. After utilizing the citadel, they were to travel to Nemyra, the Mage Tech Nation, and meet with the Mages Association. Draegorne's parents had been away for a long-term work project, though Draegorne was never informed of what it was and where they are. The mercenary lord tells the group that he has been in touch with Draegorne's parents from time to time, and they currently reside in Nemyra. They await their arrival in Nemyra. He concluded that out of anybody in the world, the tech magic specialists of Nemyra would be the most likely to know the whereabouts of the cult of Varnaxis, the organization that had orchestrated their entire exile. With renewed purpose and shielded by their mana-fused cloaks, the team immediately headed into the capital streets toward the citadel. Upon entering the facility, they leveraged its concentrated arcane energy by interacting with the centerpiece sigil, resulting in the power spike they needed. The party successfully raised all of their class tiers to Tier 4 Ascendant. The new class types are as follows: Avant Zendelga, Bloodchained Regent; Freya Zegar, Bloodchained Regent; Seaven Zendelga, Bloodsteel Vanguard; Rosalia Zendelga, Bloodsteel Vitalist; Liliana Zendelga, Bloodbound Emissary; Draegorne Zendelga, Bloodbound Arcanist; Valen Calva, Equinox Heir; Cypher Hex, Phantom Imperator; Julian Axton Atherin. Lastly, Lyra Axton Halatheron. Now enhanced and ready, the group prepared for their next long journey, onward to Nemyra. Part 7, Revelations. The Nemyra Arc. The journey to Nemyra, the Mage Tech Nation, began with stealth and a strategic expenditure of their newly acquired wealth. Utilizing the persistent concealment of their mana-fused cloaks, a necessary safeguard for the most wanted figures in Athen, the Zendelga team secured a quiet ride in a traveling merchant's carriage. They paid the merchant 5 times the regular rate for transportation services, but maintained the simple cover story that they were hired mercenary travelers providing protection. The merchant, shrewd but observant, readily agreed. He could see this was no ordinary group of hired muscle, but wisely chose not to pry, recognizing a rare opportunity to secure powerful, silent protection while inside Nemyra's capital, Zephrel, to meet with other powerful, status-driven merchants. The expense was negligible given their recent success. The money the team had made while in Draegorne from all of their guild requests was immense. They could, in fact, easily afford a mansion in cash if they chose to settle. Though Draegorne was full of mercenary groups, it was incredibly rare to find any one person as strong as any member of the Tier 4 Ascended Zendalga team operating as mere hired swords. Their power level represented the pinnacle of martial skill and arcane mastery in Virelios, a world rich with magically inclined people. As the carriage rolled onward toward the bright glass-like spires of Zephrel, a moment of pastime occurs where the group discusses what it's like to have purpose in the realms. Powerful soldiers like them could become military specialized professors for institutions and training grounds. War veterans could transition into highly paid royal guards. Furthermore, any user possessing a high skill set in mana fusion, which every member of the Zendalga party now did, could become invaluable in any forms of construction efforts or technological advancement research. The possibilities were endless, and though they were currently consumed by conflict, the thought lingered, maybe someday, when the fighting ceased, each of the group members could finally decide what ultimate destiny they would want to forge in the world. The journey came to an end as the team arrived in Nemyra, the Mage Tech Nation. Their discreet arrival was made surprisingly seamless by the traveling merchant, who, as it turned out, was someone of high status and originally hailed from Nemyra's capital, Zephrel. This unexpected catch of personnel leveraged his status to clear the way from the borderlands into the capital city depths, delivering the party directly to one of his rental property locations. The merchant, a savvy businessman, harbored no desire to pry into the lives of his mysterious mana-cloaked passengers, but had one final request before departing. He explained that for however long they intended to stay, they could pay up front and be given free reign of the rental property, effectively securing them a safe, private base of operations. In return, he asked for some of them to assist him the next day when he met with other merchants for distribution. The Zendalga team immediately agreed, offering enough cash for 2 months' payment to solidify the deal. Their only condition was that they be allowed to remain in their cloaked garments during the meeting to maintain their concealment. Furthermore, if anyone were to inquire about the property, the merchant would state that he was the owner and the location was currently vacant, but used for personal meetings. With the arrangement finalized, the merchant departed, leaving the highly powered fugitive team with an unprecedented degree of security in the heart of Athens' intellectual center. With their immediate safety secured, the team wasted no time. The true mission, finding the elusive cult of Varnaxis. They swiftly made their way through the technologically advanced, glass-like streets of Zephrel toward their first objective, the Mages Association, located within one of the major, shimmering towers that punctuated the capital city skyline. When the concealed travelers entered the tower, they were greeted by an employee who was already anticipating their arrival. The employee, moving with practiced haste, guided them into an arcane elevator that ascended many levels to near the topmost floor, a quiet area primarily utilized by the designated board members of the Mages Association. The tension was immediate and emotional. Inside the conference room, 3 figures awaited them. 2 of them were Draegorne's parents, and the third was Kalon, the esteemed top architect of the Mages Association. After the initial, private exchanges of greeting and relief, the team, Draegorne's parents, and Kalon settled into a serious exchange of vital intelligence. Draegorne's parents revealed they had been sent over to Nemyra in a secret code from Velgrith to assist in upgrading the capital of Chaos's technological advancement. Together with Kalon and the other mages, they had accomplished a major technological feat. They created realm-wide communication devices that allowed for video calling between the otherwise isolated realms. Some of the vital companions to the Zendalga party had already distributed these devices over time for security reasons given the turbulent events that had occurred. Furthermore, the Mages Association confirmed that their primary research focus had been on 2 critical and related subjects: understanding the volatile Zendalga bloodline and tracking the evolving monsters emerging from Nemyra. Nemyra's own defense against the Nebula Zone demonstrated their ingenuity. Unlike the land-based gates, their Nemyra gate originates within the ocean, allowing monsters to easily traverse the marine terrain toward the mainland. Containing this threat had been a long-term engineering challenge. It first required labor mages to consistently hold the water away from the ground to access the gate. Then mana sigils were created to forcefully hold the water back, but that consumed constant, precious resources. Their ultimate solution, now complete, involved the construction of a permanent bridge that spanned the distance to the gate. This bridge was fully secured by mana-infused sigils to maintain proper access without the need for any costly, hard labor. They also confirmed that war golems had been constructed and deployed to replace traditional war labor used in protecting the gate. The war golems are effective, but not perfect. They can only handle minor amounts of monsters, and people are still recruited from guilds to consistently defend Nemyra. During major scenarios, some of the Mages Association will be dispatched to handle the threats as well. The constant tension in Nemyra was immediately explained by the city's existential threat. The appearance of monsters from the Ocean Gate was not an occasional hazard, but a nearly daily occurrence, with overwhelming hordes appearing weekly. This alarming frequency was not new. It had been the reality since the birth of Nemyra itself. Consequently, the nation's primary reason for existence went far beyond merely maintaining the Nemyra Gate. Its mandate was to constantly push the boundaries of technological advancement to survive the siege. The meticulous, mana-infused bridge and the deployment of war golems were not luxuries. They were desperate necessities born from a perpetual state of war. Before the team disbanded to return to their rental property, Kalan and Draegorne's parents laid out the operational plan. Their mission now became twofold: immediate defense and long-term intelligence gathering. The group would be strategically split to tackle both objectives simultaneously. The most combat-capable members were requested to handle the ongoing defense efforts. Avant, Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, and Prince Valen would form the front line to assist with the containment of the Nemyra Gate. This provided the Mages Association with a highly powerful force that could alleviate the constant pressure on their resources. Meanwhile, Athen and Rosalia, leveraging their experience and discretion, would accompany the Nemyran leaders to the extensive library to research the origins and movements of the cult of Varnaxis. Their goal was to uncover the elusive technological means behind the framing and the larger conspiracy. Finally, the supporting three, Cypher and Valen's two other companions, Julian and Lyra, allies gained during the cave fight, were tasked with assisting the high-status merchant. This quiet, commercial task would keep them hidden, generate necessary funds, and provide a plausible cover story for the entire team's prolonged stay in Zephyr. The stage was set for a day of parallel operations. The only other necessity for all operations is for everyone in the party to remain in concealment when in public. The fighters that choose to enter the Nemyra Gate are free to drop their cloaks, since no fighters dare to go there. The following morning set the stage for 3 missions across Nemyra. The first, and most dangerous, was the Nemyra Gate defense. The combat-capable team of Avant, Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, and Prince Valen were tasked with augmenting the defenses at the Ocean Gate. Their objective was simple: utilize their destructive power to hold the relentless horde spilling from the Ocean Gate, providing immediate, crucial relief for the Mage Tech Nation's constantly strained resources. A few Tier 4 monsters appear during the stay, but are destroyed by the team without any casualties. At one point, the group of 5 are able to enter the Nemyra Gate and hold the line from within, allowing them to fight at full potential without any need to remain in concealment. The fighters are hyper-capable of long-term brawling, given their new status as Tier 4 Ascended. The second mission was one of intellectual investigation, falling to Avon and Rosalia. Accompanied by Draegorne's parents and Kalon, they would delve into Nemyra's extensive libraries to research the technological means and operational history of the cult of Varnaxis. Rosalia, T-Mana forging expert, would focus on understanding the specialized magic used for the teleportation and Tier 4 branding, while Avan would lend his strategic mind to tracking the group's political movements and potential hideouts. Their success hinges entirely on finding a definitive clue regarding the cult's current whereabouts or the source of their advanced technological terrorism. Finally, the peripheral team, Cypher, Julian, and Lyra, were given the quiet mission of maintaining the group's cover. Assisting the high-status merchant at his distribution meeting provided a necessary layer of normalcy, generating funds, and confirming their cover story of being hired for protection. This discreet, commercial task shields the main operation from public scrutiny. Should any of the powerful, greedy merchants at the meeting prove too curious, the assassin would ensure their identities remain concealed, allowing the two vital investigative missions to proceed undisturbed. Over the next month, each of the teams would differ slightly, as they would change up the duties amongst the three squads to better leverage their variety of skill sets overall. Each of the team grows in power, further solidifying their combat attributes in all types. They obtain very high socioeconomic status from assisting the merchant. Draegorne and his parents were able to locate detailed information on the cult, and they find that Falsa Veritatis Dater is a Latin language translation that means false truth giver. It's likely that the jester is someone that is not who he says he is, but rather a statement for the upcoming finality. A major, unprecedented event occurs in Nemyra. A criminal group from the underground was suddenly unleashed upon the public, transformed by a drug injection. This drug caused the criminals to manifest a variant of corrupted chaos mana. Though it was definitively not true chaos mana, the resulting transformation very closely resembled that of an individual in Blood Rage from Chaos Resurgence. The implication was devastating. The only way such a formula could have been created was if someone had successfully broken into the AveyaZ Association labs and stolen their experimental materials they had been actively using on Draegorne's parents to better learn about the volatile Zendelga bloodline. The Mage Tech Nation's ultimate defense system had been breached, and its deepest research was now weaponized against its own citizens. The architect of the chaos was quickly exposed. As panic seized the public, footage surfaced showing a distinctive figure walking away from the scene with a chilling grin, the Jester. Public observers began yelling about the AveyaZ Association creating a manipulating drug, instantly blaming the governing body. However, the Zendelga team, uniquely informed about their enemy, recognized the true mechanism at play. They understood that the jester Falsa Veritatis Dater had likely used mood-changing aura on those civilians, creating the initial panic and amplifying the public reaction against the AveyaZ Association. The orchestrated chaos achieved two goals. It covered the theft of the research and permanently damaged the reputation of the scientific institution the Zendelgas were temporarily associated with. The incident triggered a painful and critical revelation for the Zendelga party. Draegorne's parents suddenly recalled seeing a jester figure existing within King Valtheron's corridors from time to time back in Zarvale. The chilling realization struck the team. The jester may not have been a sudden antagonist, but a manipulative force who had been influencing the masses of people for a very long time. This implied that Falsa Veritatis Dater had somehow secured direct, high-level access to many political spheres of influence across multiple realms, potentially including the highest levels of the Chaos Monarchy itself. Utilizing the new realm-wide communication devices, a technological marvel created by the AveyaZ Association, Avant and Freya risked connection back to their war-torn home. They reached Luna Zavareth, a member of the Zavareth royal family, who had remained a steadfast if distant supporter. Someone they knew they could trust. The news Luna delivered was a chilling final revelation that extinguished any remaining hope for diplomatic resolution. Following the headlines of Nemyra, the other realms were prepared to declare war on the Zendelga lineage and had aligned to assist Athen in their annihilation. The political machine had succeeded. The Zendelgas were no longer merely fugitives, but globally condemned targets. The only remaining path was complete disappearance. The team needed to vanish entirely from the public map and take to the underground territory where little to no rules existed. This network, a sprawling, hidden infrastructure, was connected throughout Athen's realm and would provide unprecedented mobility while remaining completely concealed from the political forces above. Fortunately, the team had an invaluable asset. The assassin working with Prince Valen had, at one point in his life, lived amongst the underground and was intimately familiar with its sprawling, labyrinthine territory. They would now entirely rely on his specialized knowledge to navigate the shadow world. The choice was final. They faced two equally bleak options, either trusting their survival entirely to the lawless hidden passages of the underground, or seeking refuge in the mysterious, uncontrolled expanse of the weeping dystopia. The latter, a place of crumbling temples and lost ruins, was their only alternative. But for now, the decision was made. They would use Cypher's knowledge plunge into the shadows and pray the walls of the underground were thick enough to conceal them in order to buy themselves time to decide. The only other place they could go would be to Nithara, where Vantis Rendlga is. Though that result could likely never comply because they do not know if civilization can be built there due to the complexities of the Nebula Zone. Part 8. The Finality. The decision was final total disappearance. The Zindelga party, cloaked and desperate, were quickly ushered to their escape point by Kalon, the chief architect of the Mages Association. He led them to a hidden magical movable structure within the city, a confidential apparatus built solely for the association's entry into the subterranean network. Within minutes, the cloaked squad found themselves plunged into the oppressive darkness of the underground territory, relying entirely on Cypher's intimate knowledge of the hidden paths. However, their powerful mana signatures and infamous reputation proved impossible to conceal in this lawless domain. Despite the cloaks, the brigands, powerful criminals, and outcasts who populated the depths could seemingly smell the raw power of the Zindelga lineage and their high-tier allies. The team was numerously approached and instantly ambushed by forces eager to claim the bounty or simply the thrill of killing such high-profile targets. Their escape became a frantic, constant brawl, forcing them to fight non-stop as they rushed through the winding depths of the underground. They fought through small skirmishes and pitched battles. Finally, they reached the deeper territory that lay directly beneath Virelios. But before Cypher could guide them to a safe passage, their desperate flight was halted by a presence of overwhelming power. Standing silently in the path, radiating an authority that chilled the chaotic noise of the underground, was a single figure. This was no common criminal. She announces herself as the Equinox Sentinel, Astria, known as a Tier 5 goddess who resides secretly within Virelios after the Divine War. The murderous party, having successfully evaded the political leaders of Athen, now found themselves facing a true, unassailable divine authority. Their escape had hit an insurmountable wall. She says but one statement: "You will not be leaving this place alive. You have to die. You will all perish. There is no future for you." Avant speaks against the goddess. "I cannot believe a god from the Divine War still remains. I do not think any of us have ever faced a godlike being in combat before. You're willing to take us all on. I do not believe you could kill all of us by yourself." Astrea's response was a wave of pure, white gold mana that compressed the air, making even the cloaked brigands around them choke. "Never shame the power of a godlike being, you murderous dog," she uttered, her face utterly devoid of mercy. The fight commenced instantly, initiated by a blinding stroke of divine light aimed directly at the heart of the exiled party. The Zindelgas and their allies, knowing retreat was impossible, exploded into action, their synchronized defense and desperate offensive strikes the only hope against the single, overwhelming opponent. The battle was not fought to kill, but to survive an impossibility. Astrea's speed and power were incomprehensible. Her attacks bypassed conventional defenses, striking directly at their mana reserves and resolve. She moved with the duality of the Order realm, her movements reflecting the structured ideals of Virelios, always finding the point of least resistance. The party was forced to rely on every lesson learned and every Tier 4 Ascended class skill they possessed. Avant and Freya blood-chained regents operated as the primary distraction, utilizing their synergy and controlled bursts of chaos resurgence to force Astria into continuous defensive positioning. Meanwhile, Draegorne Bloodbound Arcanist focused his newly capable fire mana broadsword on disruptive burst attacks, and Liliana Bloodbound Emissary strategically used her support spells infused within her sword staff to counteract Astrea's draining effects. The turning point arrived not through brute force, but through strategic endurance. Utilizing Rosalia's skills to briefly siphon a measure of Astria's overflowing power, and relying on Saivan's command to maintain a shifting, disciplined formation, the party managed to hold their ground for a crucial, desperate period. Astrea realized, not with defeat, but with cold, divine logic, that annihilating the entire cohesive unit would demand a level of power expenditure that would shatter the fragile political equilibrium of Virelios above, and act her duty as the Equinox Sentinel forbade. With a final, crushing wave of white energy that hurled the entire group against the cavern wall, Astria retracted her divine power. She vanished as swiftly as she had appeared, leaving behind a clear message: she had failed to end them, But other godlike beings are debating heavily on retaliation. Bleeding, bruised, but miraculously whole, the Zendelgas had survived a direct confrontation with a Tier 5 god. They pressed onward through the underground territory, their path out marked by the countless bodies of criminals and brigands who dared to step into their way. The lawless depths, though initially a refuge, had become an inescapable trap, as they knew were they to remain. They would never sleep at night for the remainder of their lives. Their options had finally narrowed to one: they had to reach the weeping dystopia. They eventually reached the location leading back up to the surface, finding themselves only about a mile within Ferundel's territory. They scrambled onto the surface and immediately traversed into the grim expanse of the weeping dystopia. The desolate region, with its promised hazards, was immediately less threatening than the concentrated hate of the underground. Any lingering, common monsters were slaughtered with ease. Driving deep into the region, they found a chilling core to the territory's decay, a Nemyra gate. The gate's presence confirmed their suspicion that it was the very reason for all the monsters that plagued the area, perpetually feeding the dystopia with chaos. Not far from the gate, they found their intended destination, an old, broken-down sanctuary and a few other crumbling buildings, resembling the remains of a small village. Before taking any time to settle, the team spent hours eliminating all surrounding monsters within a few miles radius, securing their perimeter. Once they returned to their sanctuary, they put their combined skills to use, utilizing different forms of mana fusion to patch up the environment, determined to recreate the shattered ruins into a safe, habitable, and homely civilized location. For the remainder of the day, having secured the ruins and ensured their immediate safety, the group rested. There was nothing more to do than rest, yet sleep was impossible. The hours were spent in urgent quiet discussion, a continuous stream of debate between one-on-one council and full group conferences. They talked over their strategic options. What plans could they execute? What were their individual thoughts on the best move forward? The questions were existential. If people attack, what do we do? If we are called to action, what do we do? If they do declare war against us, do we fight? Every option led back to annihilation, but the shared silence of the derelict sanctuary made their collective resolve unbreakable. As the quiet hours of night crept in, the moment of decision was violently thrust upon them. An insistent ringing alarm cut through the stillness, emanating from Prince Valen Calva's device. It was King Victor Calva, his voice strained but commanding through the secure communication line. "My son," King Victor asked, his voice heavy with the weight of the Golden Law, "are you prepared to put your life on the line for your ideals or return to your father without any remorse?" He confirmed the terror. The coalition unity of the nations and realms have joined together and are declaring war on the Zendelga lineage. Prince Valen's device was now the sole communicator, the only link between the hunted and the hunters. The entire group glanced at each other, their faces illuminated by the device's cold light. They were uncertain of their final decision. Every strategic argument, every diplomatic hope had dissolved. But Avant was the first to speak up, his voice cutting through the despair with the absolute conviction of a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. One final note: I was never a criminal. I have been framed for every little thing that has ever happened. Not that it matters to any of you. We stop running, they want a war. We give them a war, not against the innocents, but against the system that declared us dogs. We fight until the bitter end. If they want to bury the Zendelga lineage, they're going to have to do it with our blood on their hands. Come to the weeping dystopia tomorrow, we settle this in blood. Their decision was sealed in fire and frustration. Moments later, the official notice arrived on Valen's comms. The war on the Zendelga lineage would commence tomorrow morning. The final hours were filled with solemn farewells from their allies across Athen. Lady Ashan, the mercenary lord, and Kalon sent their last communications, their messages saturated with genuine grief and political reality. They confirmed what the party already knew: they could not assist them in this grand fight, and given the unified force of the nations and realms, they did not see an end where the Zendelga survived. Morning rose over the desolate landscape of the weeping dystopia, shedding light on the new reality of their home, a broken-down sanctuary rebuilt by mana and resolve. Everyone was geared up and awaiting their fate at the doorstep of their fortress. The stillness held until 9 a.m., when the silence was fractured by the ominous sight on the horizon. Nothing but full fleets of soldiers and war golems, stretching across the distance, the entire might of the Athenian coalition amassed against 12 individuals. Avant, Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, Savan, Rosalia, both of Draegorne's parents, Valen, Cypher, Julian, and Lyra. Avant turns towards Freya. He presents her with a ring that Liliana and Draegorne had helped him create, carefully imbued with Avant's own chaos resurgent mana. It was a gift, a marriage proposal delivered just moments before the final battle. Freya's response was immediate. She was filled with tears of profound joy and happily accepted the ring. Liliana, standing witness, then presented a second ring, nearly identical, but containing no mana, a perfect symbol of their dual reality. Avant then fixed his gaze on his beloved and asked for permission to officially use her last name, Zagar, a final act of rejecting the political prison of the Zendelga legacy, ensuring that in a future where they were not daunted by this reality, he would be imprisoned no more. She happily agreed, suggesting that to be fully informal, she would call him a nickname instead. The name was settled, Vaughn, a shortened nickname that only his closest companions would ever call him going forth, solidifying their intimate, unbreakable closeness before they faced the end. The enormous coalition fleets continued their advance toward the makeshift sanctuary, but Avant, now Von Zagar, turned to Prince Valen Calva and their crucial remaining allies, Cypher, Julian, and Lyra. His voice, steady and devoid of despair, delivered a command rooted in his core value of never leaving a soul behind. Valen, listen to me. You all stood by me when every door in Athens slammed shut. You didn't have to follow us here, and I won't let you die here for a fight that began 100 years ago. If things turn out we are all going to die, then you and the other two must leave and return to Lady Ashan at Solvara. I am sure she could find a way to grant you all sanctuary. You few have been involved, but kept to a bare minimum in the public eye. You are not Zendelga, we are. Now let's do this. Chaos initiate. Valen in agreement, though he would truly not wish to leave the sides of his greatest companions. He understands that he will bear the burden of the truth. The grand battle begins. The final proclamation of the Z-Legion sets forth. There is but one condition. They choose to fight without going into blood rage, win or lose. They refuse to use the very power that has forced them all to be in this situation. The final stand, sanctuary breached. The morning sun, weak and diffuse over the ruined landscape of the weeping dystopia, illuminated the sheer scale of the forces arrayed against them. The final signal must have dropped, for the vast coalition fleet, comprising the disciplined ranks of Virelios' army, the aggressive mercenaries of Draegorne, and the tech-infused war golems of Nemyra, surged forward simultaneously. The sanctuary, lovingly rebuilt by mana fusion just prior, was instantly under siege. The opening volley of attacks was designed to obliterate, not merely breach, arcane artillery and focused fire magics tore into the outer structures, though Liliana, Draegorne, and Draegorne's parents are very capable of defending their structures from falling. Enemy soldiers, mages, and specialized units rushed towards the centermost part, pouring into the small village territory. There's no secrets to remain. Vaughn and Freya Zagar have the unique trait to be able to split themselves into identically independent selves into primary class types that are capable of telecommuting to one another. They both immediately split off into two people, one wielding their royal broadsword Zerun, and the other wielding their obsidian-fractured axe Alervin. What was two people is now four people. As the first wave of soldiers crossed the threshold, the Zendelga family moved with practiced synchronization. Savan and Rosalia immediately took point, leveraging their vast history and forming an anchor against the incoming tide of force. Rosalia channeled a massive wave of raw energy, weaving a wide-reaching, temporary shield that absorbed the initial kinetic impact of the assault. In the front line, one of the Vaughn and Freya copies accompanies both Rosalia and Kavan. Liliana Zagar follows behind with her support magics and fused sword staff to counter enemy mages attempting to breach the shield, while Draegorne unleashes bursts of destructive fire magic, incinerating the highest concentration of enemy infantry. For whenever any enemies step too close, Draegorne fuses his tome Zerun with a broadsword and turns it into a flame-branded broadsword. The team tears their way into the organized enemy lines, transforming the battlefield into a vortex of sheer, chaotic destruction. The fight was no longer strategic defense, a promise of retribution delivered against the overwhelming numbers that dared to invade their final home. The fighting continues as 3 hours pass by. No major casualties, though only Tier 3 or lower soldiers have been charging the battlefield for now. Stronger and more notable foes begin to charge, and as another fleet of forces comes in from the sidelines, the Virelios Central Noble Army arrives up front, and vast species of demi-humans arrive from the sidelines from Ferundel. Leading the Virelios Central Noble Army is none other than Astria, the Equinox Sentinel. Other notable warriors of Ferundel that they had once trained long ago are here and prepared to give their lives to combat. Though the battle rages on, due to Astria and the relentless number of soldiers pursuing, there simply is no moment for recovery. All means of recovery are forced from their internal skill of Regiaga that exists within the Zendelga bloodline. Liliana, Rosalia, and the man's wife try their best to maintain statuses, though there's simply too many conditions being requested for to manage all proper healing requirements. The moment Estrella entered the range, she did not waste time with grand gestures. Divine light erupted, aimed at dismantling the defense anchor formed by Rosalia and Skaevan. The battle immediately shifted from one of attrition to one of absolute power. Vaughn and Freya, even split into their 4-person force, found their Chaos Resurgence power straining against the divine authority of the Equinox Sentinel. Astria moved with chilling precision, her goal clear: eliminate and dissolve the defense. Yet, as Astria pressed her divine advantage, a massive, earth-shaking shift occurred on the Ferundel flank. A wave of ancient, vibrant green energy surged through the demi-human ranks, instantly decimating some of the buildings the Zendelgas had constructed by wild roots and earth magic. The ground itself seemed to rise in against the Zendelgas, and a towering figure stepped forward from the advancing Ferundel legions. It was another of the surviving 5 gods of the Divine War, the Warden of Wild Roots, Sylvanas from Ferundel. Sylvanise, whose presence symbolized a deep connection to nature and the vitality of life, is now joining the fray as well as an opposing figure. 2 godlike beings and an everlasting military army versus the fallen royal bloodline. They continue to have an all-out bloody brawl. One side faces immense casualties, and the Z Legion is beginning to suffer casualties as well. Another force indirectly joins the fights, the Cult of Varnaxis. They slowly had been building up from the exit of the underground territory on the outskirts of Ferundel. The one leading the cult in this fight are many more summoners, Falsa Veritatis Dater, and the group that had saved him during their attack on Virelios. Falsa Veritatis Dater proceeds with ungodly competition and mood-changing aura on the summoners once again. The Dark Templar and the cult army begin attacking all opposing sides. They have no remorse for anybody. Deep in the forbidden archive beneath our Alexia, a recorded line reads, "Should chaos roar too loudly, time itself may listen. The prison is silent, but silence breaks under screaming skies. There is so much chaos that 2 godlike beings become freed from the chronostic seals nearby in Solvara and Ferundel, thus immediately becoming thrusted into the full assault. People are dying from all over, as Sylvanas is killed, Dragon's father has fallen. Astria is severely wounded in combat, and the few remaining Virelios noble army retreat with her. Only 11 people remain on their side. The 2 godlike beings that broke free from the chronostic seals are finally brought down by the Z Legion, but at the cost of Drugan's mother and Rosalia, Avant's mother. Only 9 people remain on their side. Another wave of mercenary teams from Draegorne arrives alongside 2 godlike beings that had broken free from their chronostic seals. Freya, Avant, Liliana, Drugan, and Valen are finally met with the Dark Templar and his summoners. Meanwhile, handling the ongoing threat from Draegorne and Virelios, the forthcoming fleet from Ferundel comes to a halt, and the other party members Kaivan, Cypher, Julian, and Lyra are holding off the other cult elite group and the godlike beings from Draegorne. As the Z Legion had fought before, they managed to kill off all of the summoners and heavily injure the Dark Templar until he decides to retreat. Given the circumstances, they cannot stop his retreat. As the 5 of them turn over, the other members are entirely in peril. By the time they all reunite together, Skaevan and the assassin have been killed, while the other 2 members are severely wounded. though only 2 cult elites remain. Z-Legion numbers remain at 7 people. Vaylin instructs the 2 of them to run and get somewhere safe, but as he mutters those words, another chronostick seal shatters in the weeping dystopia. This one is Riken, the Master of Lightning. His sudden appearance shakes the lands as he explodes from his seal. The blast heads straight into the current battlefield. Many of the Z-Legion manage to protect themselves, except for the man and his wife that have evaporated from existence. Z-Legion numbers remain at 5 people. They failed to save 2 of the non-Zendelga lineage members. The glowing amount of black/crimson mana begins to surge out of Liliana's body. She's losing herself from all of the bloodshed and loss of their dying companions. The others quickly rush over to calm her down. This is not the moment to lose another from blood rage. Lily regains her composure, but their enemies leave no moment of cooldown and continue to rampage against them. The remaining cultist elites have fallen, but Vaylin is nearly fatally wounded. The copy of Freya and Liliana forcefully blink Vaylin out of the area and ship him into the Nithara Gate. 4 Z-Legion members remain: Freya, Avant, Liliana, and Draegorne. Riken is by far the strongest entity within the vicinity right now. Riken and the 2 godlike beings from Draegorne continue to fight the opposing side together with the mercenary group reinforcements. Both of Freya and Avant's additional copy have been killed, resulting in a major injury to their original counterparts. They managed to bring down one of the godlike beings and the majority of the mercenary forces, but at the cost of Draegorne, Avant's cousin. 3 Z-Legion members remain. The last godlike being from Draegorne is killed, and Liliana has also fallen. The final 2 Z-Legion members remain. Hardly hanging on, Freya and Avant managed to kill off the final reinforcements, and now only Riken remains standing against them. There are no other reinforcements coming at this time. Riken activates his ultimate technique, Revolt Collapse. Riken channels the full, unbridled power of his lightning domain, drawing energy from the surrounding atmosphere and the ground. This mana is compressed into a singular, silent electrical discharge that bypasses armor and mana shields. The attack is designed to strike the target's nervous systems directly, causing instantaneous cellular and nervous system failure. This results in a total systemic shutdown, inducing simultaneous cardiac arrest and massive internal hemorrhaging. Riken pierces both Freya and Avant with the utmost precision. They were thrown violently backward into the large sanctuary building that hardly remains, hitting the shattered earth of the sanctuary floor. They were not dead, but the systemic trauma was absolute. Paralyzed and unable to breathe, they lay side by side, coughing blood onto the dust, 2 heroes reduced to vulnerable, broken figures. As they lay dying, Riken walks over to Freya and utters a few last words to her as he picks her head up off the ground. "You should have never sided with that beast. You're too beautiful for that." Then smashes her head back into the ground, killing her. Von Zagar watched the final, brutal moment, unable to move, unable to shout. The loss of his fiancée, the final, vicious act of destruction against the one person he vowed never to lose, ended it all. Every vestige of his strategic control, every political restraint, every diplomatic hope, snapped. He was alone, and all others had fallen. The immense, raw power trapped within his bloodline surged uncontrollably. With a final, agonizing, earth-shattering roar and screaming with intense pain and agony, Von Zagar was driven straight into Blood Rage, Phase 3 of Chaos Resurgence. Here comes the finality. Riken hears a communication device alarming loudly from afar. An alarm that has never sounded unless a worldwide threat is imminent. The device utters the following words: "Life-threatening mana levels reached. A threat beyond gods has risen into weeping dystopia. All beings within 1,000 miles find immediate shelter." This is not a drill. Your very life depends on it. Current death count for today, 5 million. The scene cuts over to Virelios with King Victor. He had just overheard the alarm. What is the meaning of this? They should have all died. I do not understand. A messenger quickly rushes into the throne room and explains that nobody is receiving any feedback on the front lines. This is the only update they have. The scene cuts to Lady Ashan in Solvara. She has already been linked to the mercenary lord in Draegorne. She mutters a few words. "That has to be him. We've lost him, Xaldin. We agreed to this. I'm ready to move now. I will free the others around here in the Chronostic Seal in Solvara Do the same in Draegorne, and we will have to meet in Nemyra. We will have to take the final stand. I will stop by Virelios and make sure Zarva's seal is still maintained. Xaldin, the Ravager of War, and one of the two gods that remain from the Divine War, nods in agreement to Valyria, the Serpent of Prosperity. The two rulers recognize the stakes at play. Millions of the living are all going to die, and they do not have enough time. There is nothing they can do about it. The scene cuts to another chronostic seal breaking. This one belongs to one of the two goddesses of chaos that had existed near the southern border of Virelios, the goddess of chaos, Solvara. Quickly tracking the power within the vicinity, she can sense the mana radiating from AveyaZ at the Weeping Dystopia. Solvara's role as a goddess of chaos is to care for the royal bloodlines of Zarvale. She immediately begins advancing towards Avant. The scene cuts back to Avant and Riken, the only two remaining members in the onslaught. Vaughn's body was enveloped in a violent, chaotic aura of black and crimson mana, accompanied by the slow, audible heart pulse of the curse, audible beyond a long ways away. His eyes, now permanently deep red and black, fixed on Riken, the god of thunder, with a singular murderous intent. This was the raw, unrestrained fury the Zendalga lineage was feared for, the Annihilator unleashed, with no thought but to repay the ultimate destruction. The entire structure of the final battle shattered. The fight was no longer strategic, but personal, primal, and driven solely by vengeance. It became a cataclysmic clash between divine power and raw, corrupted violence. Riken, anticipating the surge of catastrophic energy, met the blood rage with controlled electrical force. Yet the divine lightning that had just paralyzed Vaughn now struggled to contain the unpredictable, explosive power of Phase 3 blood rage. Vaughn, devoid of self-preservation or control, leveraged the sheer, overflowing magnitude of the chaos power, striking with reckless, devastating blows. He was no longer a man. The entire battlefield became a chaotic vortex of exploding crimson mana and shattered electrical energy as Riken is whipped around and constantly smashed into the ground from his corrupted axe Lurven. After moments of time follows, but for Riken it feels like an agonizing hour, Vaughn casts his ultimate technique, Resurgent Colossus. Vaughn initiates by briefly condensing the raw, surrounding chaos mana into a highly volatile, spherical but transparent mass with Riken at its core. Vaughn appears to vanish, transforming into a phantom of pure black and crimson energy that traces a deadly path around Riken, landing multiple devastating, swift strikes that shatter bones with focused impact, channeling concentrated, unstable chaos mana directly into the enemy system. On the final swift strike, Vaughn lands back on the ground behind Riken. The concentrated energy he injected detonates in a powerful outward explosion, delivering catastrophic internal corrupted mana shock and physical trauma. As Riken attempts to stand again, he is met with a different copy of Avant wielding a screaming maul and crushes him back down. The heavily armored juggernaut, Avant variant, continues to smash Riken on repeat until he dies. The goddess of chaos Solvara arrives upon seeing the catastrophe on the battlefield. She notices one of the two Avants glances over at Freya's dead body and begins to scream. Solvara activates her ultimate technique that allows her to jump into and possess an individual, though the effect is not a guarantee. She tries anyway. Solvara combines herself into Avant's mind and soul. For a moment, he had a very small sense of his surroundings, and she got inside of him. Avant wishes for her to leave. He's exhausted and wishes to not fight any longer. There are no more people opposing him as the battle is over. Solvara pleads to him, explaining that she has failed him as her goddess of chaos, and she does not deserve any right to be a godlike being. Though she has failed, she believes that all of the living are damned and have no right to live any longer for all they have done to the people she was supposed to protect as their goddess. Avant is screaming, telling her to stop what she is doing, for he will never forgive her for her sins if she keeps going. Solvara fully possesses Avenat and forces him to fully succumb to blood rage by reigniting his memories of Freya's death on repeat until he no longer has any feeling at all. A raging surge that goes beyond the previous peak is summoned. His power elevates even further. Avant splits into yet another copy of himself that is fully independently capable. There are now 3 Avants in total. One with his broadsword Z-rune, another wielding his axe Lurven, and a third new heavily armored juggernaut variant wielding a screaming maul. The scene cuts back to Virelios. One of the border guards is able to see a dark but bright red light emanating very far away from their location. The guard poses the question, "Hey, what is that bright light over there?" "Everybody get down now, Holy." Before he could finish his sentence, an explosive blast that would equate that of a nuclear bomb had erupted, completely tossing his head off his shoulders and busting down the majority of the border walls to Virelios. Avant had casted his secondary ultimate technique, Cataclysmic Burst. When a couple of the guards still alive get up, they see three highly intimidating figures that carry enough mana to suffocate them on the spot. Within seconds, a few swings of their weapons and they all die. The border walls are completely destroyed on the south side. Within an hour, a signal goes out to the other nations. Virelios has not just fallen. Nothing exists there anymore. High Arbiter Victor Calva, burdened by the weight of the Athenian Accord, likely fell in the defense of Oralexia. His wife, Lady Saralyn Calva, who guarded the Divine Scriptorium and represented the voice of compassion, perished alongside him. Ensuring the Calva family's secrets and the truth of the Divine War were temporarily buried with them, the three Avants split up. Zayrun heading towards Solvara, Alurvan heading towards Ferundel, and Alurvan heading towards Draegorne. A device blares. The current death toll today is now 205 million. The Screaming Maul, tasked with erasing the nation built on strength, met the final doomed resistance of the mercenary leaders of Draegorne. These fierce fighters, though powerful, were swiftly overwhelmed by the colossal force. The resulting destruction was total. All of Draegorne, save for minor, inconsequential borderlands, was utterly destroyed, its capital and all mercenary infrastructure wiped from the map. The loss of life added 200 million to the mounting death toll. Today's current death toll, 405 million. The wielder Alurvan descended upon Ferundel, the nation of demi-born tribes. Here, the destruction was swift and aimed at command. The axe-wielding maniac cut a bloody path directly through the ruling council, killing every one of the leaders who had once granted the Zindelgus sanctuary. Without leadership, the rest of the nation quickly succumbed to the surrounding chaos. Ferundel was effectively wiped out, with only the small, southernmost territory, a landscape of perpetual, infinite winter, remaining untouched by the immediate destruction. The fall of the demi-born nation and the loss of life contributed a further 200 million to the total count, ensuring the survival of only the most inhospitable corner of the nation. Today's current death toll, 605 million. The third strike was delivered to Solvara, the grand market and neutral trade nation, by Zayrun. Built for trade and elegance, Solvara was not structurally designed for combat and was the quickest to be destroyed of the four nations. Any remaining royals of House Ashan were killed, marking the end of the custodians of prosperity. Zayrun then committed a final, terrible act. He infused the surrounding waters of the harbor city with corrupted chaos mana. The effect was immediate and horrifying. All people stranded in the surrounding waters were forced to die a slow, painful death from the corrupted mana corroding the waters. Anything attached to the water would slowly decay and join the corrupted essence, ensuring the city and the people who were stranded faced an agonizing end. The annihilation of Solvara added yet another 200 million casualties. Today's current death toll, 805 million. Cut to the scene at Ferundel. The battle was joined amidst the desolate, burning ruins of Ferundel. The shattered landscape where the demi-born nation had once stood became the necessary stage for a counterstrike. In a stunning display of strategic necessity, the Chaos Realm had sent aid. Luna Zavareth, the Obliviate Chaos Royal, Vestra, the Goddess of Chaos, she who was recently freed from a chronostic seal, and, most pivotally, King Valtheron Zendliga, newly freed, by Vestra's urgent request to Parliament. Their sole mission was to neutralize the single, separated Alurvan wielding Von Zagar copy that was systematically eliminating the last pockets of resistance in Ferundel. Vestra, the goddess, led the initial assault with the powerful disciplined strikes of her dual broadswords, forcing the axe-wielding copy back. Luna Zavareth utilized her agility and unique Obliviate chaos magic to exploit every momentary lapse in his defense, while King Valtheron, wielding the destructive power of his own lineage, targeted the core of his mana. The fight was less a tactical engagement and more a desperate endurance test against an enemy that felt no pain or fatigue. Realizing they could not survive prolonged exposure to the Phase 3 Blood Rage, the Allies executed their final, devastating plan. Luna, Vestra, and King Valtheron synchronized their remaining energy, unleashing a rare, formidable group ultimate technique, Chaotic Judgment. The maneuver begins with the three allies condensing and channeling their unique chaos energies together, reaching outward with one arm. This intense channeling casts a transformative environmental effect that instantly illuminates the entire scene in a volatile, brilliant crimson red. This temporary dominion over the environment serves to disorient their foe and, more critically, lock the enemy into place momentarily. With their target immobilized, the allies surge forward. They execute a devastating, synchronized three-point collision, shattering the bones of their foe with perfectly coordinated strikes hitting from multiple opposing sides. Finally, they immediately step back, as the chaotic energy they injected and the strained mana of the immediate surroundings are commanded into a single, localized explosion. This chaotic collapse of the surrounding mana-infused environment detonates onto the core foe, but is sheltered into the prison, and the prison then collapses into the core where the foe stands. As the environmental prison collapses, Avant retaliates with a quickened cataclysmic burst. Though not in full force, the members are unable to guard the oncoming onslaught. Luna Zavareth, Vestra, and King Valtheron are severely wounded, their bodies broken and bleeding in the ruins of Ferundel. All other soldiers of Chaos were annihilated in the blast radius. The Avant copy wielding the Screaming Maul has gone silent after destroying Draegorne. His whereabouts remain unknown. Then the other Avant, wielding Z-Rune, proceeds to the final fight at Nemyra. Cut to the scene at Nemyra. It has reached nighttime. The majority of the day has passed since the beginning of the fight at the Weeping Dystopia. Many individuals stand at the ready where Lady Ashan Valyria, who had picked up a wandering Astria during her quick trip to Virelios, the mercenary Lord Xaldin, and the architect of Mana Kalan band together with multiple godlike beings that they freed from the chronostic seal to kill the Z-Rune wielder, Avant, before he proceeds to annihilate the final Athen civilization, Nemyra. Thankfully, they had also received reinforcement from the realms of light and darkness. Enter the celestial goddess of light, Lumina, and Xenon, darkness corruptor. They join together at the outskirts of Nemyra when they see a dark but bright light in the distance. Xaldin mutters, "Here he comes." Then, the corrupted Z-Rune wielder himself suddenly blinks near Exiled and immediately collides into him with incredible speed. Xaldin shouts aloud, "HE's here." The active skill to blink is a quick movement of phantom mana transfer teleportation over a distance. Not necessarily true teleportation in a grand distance. They cast a territory mana fusion spell that cloaks all of Nemyra into a magic minimizing safeguard, painting all of the terrain with true blue engraved flares of mana radiating all around. This will reduce all magic-related damage to the allies and the terrain by 20%. Their hope is this will drive them to a successful defense and minimize the damage done to Nemyra. The allies need Nemyra to survive if they ever intend on rebuilding the nations in the future with their technological guidance and capability. The fight begins. As the fight progresses, and they weaken the Z-Rune Avant, they faintly hear people screaming underneath the ground and come to the realization. The Screaming Maul Avant that had gone missing must have gone into the underground territory after destroying Draegorne and is slaughtering the masses there as well. Kalon, Xenon, and Lumina create a deep crater into the ground that reveals the underground territory where a flare of mana erupts from the open space. Vaughn comes leaping out of the crater and smashes into the three as he prepares to cast Cataclysmic Burst with the Z-Rune Avent. All godlike beings channel together a barrier that contains the two beings as they explode. As they hold the barrier, the majority of them begin bleeding out of their noses and mouths. They cannot hold it for long. Finally, the cataclysmic burst ends and nobody directly was injured, but the exhaustion is painted brighter than any moon that casts in the moonlight sky. Many of the godlike beings are killed. What was originally well into the double digits of fighters is now only 11. Parts of Nemyra sustain damage as well. The two corrupted figures are full of combat injuries. Kalon comes to the realization that they will have to use their conjoined ultimate technique that they had developed since the Divine War to finish this fight, but it comes with a large cost. 10 godlike beings are needed to cast by channeling their power into one person, but the condition is that they will all die after the cast. This was created only if the situation was forced upon by a threat that could not be imprisoned. Xaldin speaks up that Valyria should be the one to remain, as one of them will not be needed. Valyria can use her identity as the surviving royal Lady Ashen to help Nemyra rebuild Athen from the ground up. The team is in agreement and accepts their decisive end. Together, as the 10 godlike beings, they cast final judgment to neutralize the 2 corrupted bodies, effectively killing the maul wielder and knocking the sword wielder unconscious. Only one body remains standing, and it is Lady Ashen. As she walks up to finish the deed and ending Avant's life, the goddess of chaos Vestra blinks in front of Lady Ashen, though this one is not injured at all. Before Lady Ashen can say anything further, Vestra explains that she will be taking Avant. There were reinforcements from the Zarvale, and they'd killed the other Avant copy. This one lying on the ground is the last one, and he is unconscious. Lady Ashen speaks, "So, you're also capable of a doppelganger, are you? Is that some unique trait to the very rare Chaos realm? Where are you going to take him?" Knowing you, Vestra, I am sure you are well aware of what has been going on since your disappearance from the Divine War. He's been framed beyond reasoning. Avant has killed more people than anybody has ever lived. To be honest, killing him here would put an end to his suffering. You must see that. As far as I can't tell, I have not heard or seen anything regarding Freya or the others. They all must have died. Vestra understands what Lady Ashen is trying to say, but she remains vigilant in her decision, considering she had already made up her mind before arriving, and continues. My objective as the first goddess of chaos is to protect its citizens. Throwing him away like trash to be disposed of would go against my ideals. Cannot do that. I am well aware that the situation cannot be saved as well. Whether he perishes is no longer under your guidance, and I will carry the burden from this moment forward. I recommend you do not fight me either. We both know you cannot kill me, and I am not intending to face you on the battlefield. Lady Ashen acknowledges Vestra and allows her to take Avant and follow her guidance. They both are in agreement of the story to be left behind. After the casting of final judgment, his body was never found. Vestra takes Avant to a hidden sanctuary back in the Chaos Realm Zarvale. When she arrives, she is greeted by an elder that was King Zendelga's right-hand strategist in all diplomatic matters. The old man gestures to her to quickly come inside his home. It is nearly morning of the next day as the night sky clears away. Vestra was able to figure out that, as the people of Nemyra are performing rescue missions and exploring the continent, there is a rumor going around from a clown telling jokes that the Zendelga massacre killer never had his body found so he could be alive rotting somewhere. Poor lad. The clown goes around asking adults, "Do you like balloon animals, or do I need to blow myself up instead?" The old man is aware that though it's not an official manhunt, they are certainly searching for Avant's body to claim as a prize. The search will not stop until he is found, likely to become a new inside joke to the realm. They will not be able to keep Avant safe, as he is still unconscious and barely alive. Vestra and the old man refuse to end Avant's life. They can only think of one thing to do, and that is seal him away in Aganos' seal, the seal of undoing, created by Aganos, the hell god of corruption, with the help of Zarvat Zendelga during the Divine War. Its purpose was to permanently erase the presence of the beholder, as if the individual never existed. The effect was horrifying, immediate memory loss and mana lock, followed by slow, agonizing soul corrosion. The stronger the individual, the longer the prolonged suffering is. This seal, though effective, was deemed forbidden for all future use by the newly established Virelios monarchy due to its overly harsh cruelty. Though it would be illegal to cast the forbidden seal, the old sage is capable of casting the seal with Vestra's help. This would be Avant's only chance of survival at this point given his current condition. His body would become that of a regular human being without any mana reserves at all. A painful revelation that it is, Avant wakes up and the three of them discuss their options. Avant requests that the one thing that he is in desperate need right now is time, and Aganos' seal would be the one thing that can provide that. He will be able to continue living as a human in a completely different life and forget everything about the current life, unable to use Chaos Resurgence, and will revert to his human form without any radiating mana. The three of them proceed with the procedures. They hold down Avant as he screams in agony due to the seal of undoing. Von Zagar is imprisoned by the Aganos' seal and lays there quietly reverting back to his regular human form as if cutting off everything he was ever tied to. The old man casts a small magically binding mark on the front side of his body that will maintain any appearance of Agnos' seal on his body. Vestra glances over to the old man who is sobbing, trying not to disclose everything feeling of hatred he has. The goddess of chaos signs a paper contract by oath to the old man, deeming that they will never speak of this incident again. Vestra takes Avant and drops him off next to a building in a small village in the Chaos Realm, considered to be the least inhabited and least visited town of the realm, where he will be forced to live as an imprisoned seal holder. Cut the scene to the Weeping Dystopia. Valen Calva comes out of the Nithura Gate, thinking that after the many hours that had passed with nobody coming through must mean the path outside is clear. Valen finds Freya Zagar's body lying nearby next to the bodies of Lily and Draegorne. There is a communication device lying on Freya as well. When Valen walks over and picks up the device, he notices Freya's body begins to flare deep within her veins, stemming from the ring that she was presented earlier this morning. It's as if her body is flowing with mana that is starting from the ring and transporting throughout her entire body. Not understanding what is going on, all of a sudden her eyes shine with red light and she begins to breathe again. Beyond a miracle, he checks her vitals by using mana fusion. Though she is not in a state any better than he is, Freya Zagar has been resurrected from the dead. Valen waits, and within a minute of passing she arises, looking as if she is in shock. Freya begins to speak. Valen, is that you? Hold on, I threw you into the gate with Lily. I have the worst headache right now. I remember fighting somebody called Riken with Avant, but then we were blasted by something he did. I don't remember anything after that. Valen hears the communication device giving off a normal signal as if receiving a message. It's a regular alert. All members of Athen, word has been received that Avant Zendelga has been killed. The catastrophe is no more. Judging by the signals throughout the realms, about 95% of the total population has been eliminated. 955 million people have died today within 24 hours. This is officially going to be recognized as the darkest day in history, called the Zendelga Massacre. To all of the living that can see or hear this alert, find your way to Nemyra, where we will rebuild Athen to whole again. This will be a slow process, but a process we can achieve. Nemyra as a nation still remains, including its capital city, untouched. We will use this as a basis in rebuilding architecture throughout the lands. The Mages Association has a plan to bring a new rebirth to the fallen victims of the tragedy that will be discussed in detail soon, but it is regarding resurrection of the masses. Have a safe journey. All is welcome to Nemyra. Valen and Freya agree to journey together to Nemyra, unknowing if they will be able to resurrect the two who were the enemies of the tragedy. They carry the two bodies in the hopes of granting them a proper burial back at the merchant's property in Nemyra. They also agree that they will believe in Avant's death only if his body is found. Such a prize to have killed someone like that would be the hero of a century. Who knows what exactly had transpired in the events after they were away. They make their way to Nemyra across the post-apocalyptic landscapes of Athen. Everything was in ruins, active fires across the surrounding scenes. If anyone really was alive in any of these parts, they have no resources to tend to. When Valen and Freya arrive at the outskirts of Nemyra, they recreate their mana-fused cloaks and conceal themselves to walk into the nation. Since there no longer is any border defense, they can simply walk in. They quickly find their loyal wandering merchant property owner that was coming out to inspect the damages in Nemyra. The merchant recognizes them and pleads how thankful he is that they have survived. Unfortunate to bear the bad news, the two explain that all of their other companions have died in the massacre. The three of them return to their property in Nemyra. They request the merchant to follow them into the Mages Association to fully explain to him who they really are, hoping that he will continue to help them further in any way that he can. Once they arrive at the tower with the Mages Association, they reveal themselves as Freya Zagar, the wife to Avant Zagar and Prince Valen Calva of Virelios. The Mages Association is stunned by the fact that they had both survived, and nonetheless one of the royals to House Calva. The two explain to the merchant that the party he was housing were the enemies of the massacre who fought on the opposing side. They apologize for deceiving him, but knowing that they had no choice. The merchant, though surprised, had guessed that the party that took into his liking were certainly no mere travelers and incredibly strong fighters. He harbors no resentment towards Freya and Valen, considering it's thanks to them that he now has a booming business in Nemyra's capital and a safe haven. He then requests their side of the story, knowing that the Mages Association has an understanding that the general public and political sphere are definitely not seeing the entire view. The merchant learns all of the framings are false, and he believes that the wonderful people that have helped him so much could never be criminals. The final matter comes up. Freya explains that she was dead, somehow resurrected by the power found within her wedding ring given to her by her husband. The Mages Association analyzes the ring to find that it has levels of fusion that have never been detailed into literature. The people who constructed the object were potentially beyond that of a master. The ring fosters the precision of structure and power, but because of its attachment with the Zendelga bloodline, it was able to shutter a breath of life back into Freya. They instruct Freya and Vaylin to help them rebuild the continent, but also to learn the highest forms of resurrection magic in the hopes of potentially bringing back to life the spirits of the prolonged dead, maybe even the two individuals they were thinking of burying. The Mages Association hires a journalism company local to the capital to write up a detailed report on Freya and Valin's lives up to this point, as well as a description of their attributes of character, a document that will solidify their entirety of a persona, who they are, why they do what they do, and why they will be vital to leading the reconstruction of Athen. The Mages Association and the press company hold a briefing that is televised and bring the two on camera. They showcase the documents that are presented and interview them as potential leaders of the reconstruction efforts. Though the people are very displeased at what they have done, they come to an understanding of why they chose to do what they did. This is the starting bright light coming their way. Lady Ashan recommends to the people that they should be their reconstruction leaders, and she has a rather massive influence in the atmosphere. The people of Nemyra vote on their leaders of the reconstruction efforts. Two are chosen. The two leaders that won the running are Freya Zigar and Valin Calva. The people choose to utilize their profound strengths to rebuild the continent over any belief systems that were imposing in the previous century. Thus, the Soulful Companion and the Equinox heir begin their long and drawn-out process of legislature, reconstruction, learning restorative magical arts, and more. Slowly over time, they will work alongside the Grand Mages in resurrecting the victims of the Zendelga massacre. The Mages Association constructs a sanctuary location where people are able to interact with the souls of the dead, where they will ask people whether they wish to be resurrected into the new structures in place. As more people are resurrected, the quicker reconstruction efforts become. Once enough higher class type individuals are brought back to life, then they can begin channeling the resurrection of godlike beings to further support the reconstruction efforts, but to also aid in the preservation of Athens' rebuilding from impacts of monsters from Nithra. Freya and Valin very quickly become very prominent members of society. Freya becomes capable enough to fully resurrect Liliana Zendelga to life, and soon after Draegorne Zendelga with Lily's help. To all of the other relatives that had perished, they each request to remain within the souls of the dead, as the new generation will be rebuilt with those existing now as their descendants. Freya, Vaylin, and the newly resurrected Draegorne and Liliana resurrect their three other companions from the Zendelga massacre. The assassin, Vaylin's friend and his wife, King Victor and Serylin Calva, are also resurrected, but under the oath that Prince Vaylin will become the current royal administrative representative of Virelios. Ferundel's council is resurrected. Within 1 year's time, all of the nations are fully reconstructed. Though not all of the people are brought back to life, as many choose to remain dead given the atrocities they had to suffer from. All of the godlike beings who were slain during the Zendelga massacre had been brought back to life. Thus the next chapter begins, now that the team is back together and the nations have been restored. It's time to clear Avant's name. Freya, Valin, Liliana, and Draegorne have become acknowledged heroes of the reconstruction efforts. Freya and the team were able to locate the location for the cult of Varnaxis. Thanks to the help of the Mages Association, they lie on the northeastern part of Draegorne, in an area filled with forestry, caverns, and caves. They find Falsa Veritatis Dater, along with 5 other demi-human juggernaut beings. Each of the demi-humans are tier 5 god tier beings. The Jester realizes this may be his final audience because his boss has abruptly left the place until further notice. The Jester mutters to his supporting beasts, "I have a bad taste of sponge fever bald. My eyes." The Jester uses his ultimate technique, ungodly competition, and mood-changing aura on the juggernaut beasts. Out comes the Dark Templar, but in a different variance than before. He has become a Tier 5 god tier foe. The battle finds a quick end this time since his foes do not have the capability to provide summoning support. Falsa Veritatis Dater is taken captive by the team. After the battle, they are met with a very imposing foe that suddenly appears. The foe is nothing like anybody has ever seen or read about in literature. The Nameless Fellow, as he calls himself, stands that of a stature for a human being. The Nameless Fellow is male and has short black hair. Before anybody could make any judgments on the situation, he declares to fight a 1 versus 1 against Freya, and only Freya alone. Freya asks whether it is a fight to the death, and the Nameless figure only answers that it depends. The Nameless foe acknowledges that Freya may be even stronger than someone else he once knew that was very similar to her. The two brawl it out over the next few minutes, with it ending in a draw, but Freya was certainly found to be stronger, but not by much. The Nameless man says a few words before suddenly disappearing into a phantasm like smoke. Maybe your world will not end the same way mine and many others did. Something about the way the man was, how he talked, his fighting style, it all seemed very similar to both Freya and Avant, besides his anti-optimistic self. The team continues with the captured Falsa and is escorted to the largest courtroom centered in Virelios. Freya and the team now have the final objective of their time. They have captured the Jester to clear Avant's name. This will not be any easy feat. The confrontation was staged in the rebuilt political chamber in the heart of the new Athen. Standing opposite the triumphant Freya Zigar, Draegorne, Liliana, and Prince Valen was the captured mastermind, Falsa Veritatis Dater, his mocking grin muted, but still visible. The defense for the Zendelga lineage was now an uphill battle for the accused, Von Zagar. The evidence against Von was overwhelming, fueled by political fear, the killing of a royal and House Ashan, the televised destruction of a city, his acquiring of monster allies, and the creation of the fake blood rage drug. Falsa proved to be as strategic as he always was. Many days are passing by, and there is nothing getting past him. He always has an argument to challenge any reasoning that is presented as if it was already planned far beyond its time. The battlefield was not where he shined the most, it was in the political sphere. 2 months passed by, and it is now springtime. Recognizing that conventional testimony would fail against Falsa's sophisticated web of lies and manipulation. More needed to be done. The Jester had been constantly manipulating the masses with mood-changing aura. This made him impervious to losing any arguments in the court. Freya and her team executed a desperate maneuver devised with the help of the Mages Association. Drawing upon the deepest foundational principles of the soulbound ritual that once made her Von's companion, Freya worked with Liliana, Draegorne, and Valen to redefine the amulet that Freya carries with her from her mother. This amulet will cancel out the magic manipulation of mood-changing aura, and they were attempting a feat of arcane projection never before achieved, playing a full visual playback of Freya's memories in reality that the entire court could see. This was not a mere illusion, but a controlled technological presentation of the Soulful Companion's most private truth, amplified by arcane power. The chamber fell into stunned silence as Freya had casted her first projected mind by using her newly defined mother's amulet. The audience saw the true story unfold. Von's actions in Solvara, when together with the group they at the time were fighting the monsters from Nemyra. They saved a lot of people and were thanked by the local villagers. Thus, once returning to Solvara was when they had come across the assassination incident of the House Ashan Royal. This first witness of this magical amulet is immediately accused by lies, that they created a false reality like a movie to be showcased to attack Falsa Veritatis Dater. Unknowingly, the board members of the Mages Association reveal themselves from cloaks from the backmost part of the courtroom and explain their new device they had created together. Falsa questions then, how did Avant's weapon appear within the room of the assassination? Freya states that Falsa is one of the greatest manipulators of magic and a jester by title. When they had fought in the most recent battle, Freya replays a quick glimpse of their most recent fight. She shows that he transforms into a Dark Templar and wields a large broadsword in combat. The people in the courtroom begin to feel incredibly sickened. They cannot believe that something that befall the horrible man was from being framed. There is an overwhelming intensity inside the courtroom. so much to the point that after Falsa is proven guilty of murder against the House Ashan Royal, they call for an immediate closing on the current session and allow them to post to the public. The world is greatly moved by the public posting. On this day, it is said to be the most intense and upsetting mood all across the realms for the framing of a royal from another realm. On the next day, when the courtroom resumes, they are forced to reschedule to an open public location and are requested to publicly film all ongoing investigations and courtroom events. When the team approaches the new location in Virelios, they are greeted and apologized dearly by many of its citizens one by one. The people are starting to believe in their story, a day that has been longing since the very beginning, before the official exile in the Chaos Realm. The presiding judges and officials, though shaken by the previous testimony of Vaughn's innocence in Solvara, remain skeptical regarding the devastating destruction of the Virelios outer city, the event that had globally cemented Vaughn's image as a terrorist. Under the penetrating gaze of the court, Freya prepared for the most challenging projection yet. Channeling her energy through the redefined amulet, she transported the chamber into her memory of the final battle, allowing them to witness the invasion not from the distance of a propaganda broadcast, but from the desperate perspective of the fighters on the ground. She starts back at the incidents from them going to the cave to help Valen's friend, to kill the legions and fight the cult of Varnaxis, then transitioning over to their upcoming fight at the borderlands of Virelios. Once she shows the battle against Falsa when he announces himself as the leader of the assaulting force, to the group that appears when Falsa is teleported away with Vaughn. Freya manipulates the mana in the amulet to then change over her, showcased by using Chaos Resurgence to begin showing Avant's perspective. The court watched Vaughn's arrival in the Virelios outer city, saw him immediately ambushed by lurking cult members, and then witnessed Falsa Veritatis Dater transforming into the Dark Templar by sacrificing his own ally. Freya's memory then provided the crucial missing piece of evidence of Falsa's gesture to Vaughn to hold still, the appearance of the powerful energy drawing surge, and the visible terror of the 10 distant cult members being consumed by the unstable mana. The culmination of the memory left the court breathless. They saw Falsa raise the shield just as the enormous catastrophic explosion detonated, reducing the city to dust. They witnessed Falsa's mocking grin as he fled, leaving Vaughn alive, surrounded by devastation, and caught on the overhead broadcast. This single projection annihilated the political narrative. It proved von Zagar did not cause the blast. He was deliberately sheltered from it by the very architect who weaponized it to create the ultimate frame. The court had witnessed the genesis of the tragedy, proving Vaughn's absolute innocence regarding one of the largest atrocities that was pinned against him. The crowd begins shouting at Falsa Veritatis Dater. They request for him to be imprisoned immediately and call him things that are better left unsaid. Falsa Veritatis Dater and the cult of Varnaxis, officially announced guilty of leading the terrorist invasion against Virelios. Falsa mutters to himself, "A little case of sponge fever didn't hurt anybody. Is mayonnaise an instrument?" After him provoking the people with his statement, Freya channels back into her amulet and remembers hearing that silly statement before. She recalls back and showcases the moments of time where in King Valtheron's throne room, moments before they were requested to leave the realm, she finds the same looking clown jester in the king's domain, saying the same exact words, as well as in Solvara's streets with the people before he jumped into the ocean waters making a funny scene. Freya immediately requests to use her communication device to contact Luna Zavareth back in the Chaos Realm. When Luna answers, she requests to find any information regarding the whereabouts of this idiot fool, pointing at Falsa Veritatis Dater. Freya mentions he was in King Valtheron's throne room on the last day before they were exiled. They sit in the courtroom and await for Luna to call back. While waiting, the clown on several occasions keeps talking about how he has sponge fever and wants to talk like an undersea creature. He says statements like, "I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready," and "Oh no, I'm Dirty Dan." Luna Zavareth returns her call and explains that the jester has no official records of being within the kingdom at all and sends over official kingdom confidential information to the Virelios court. Luna explains that Jester has somehow managed to enter the highest diplomatic domains all around the nation if he was able to get into King Valtheron's domain. The overly emotional sensations continue to grow inside the court center. Freya plays one final keynote piece, and that is what she had received from her father Derek Zigar before leaving Zarvail. Derek mentioned the name of Falsa Veritatis Dater amongst the people of the Chaos Realm. The case for today has been officially closed and will begin tomorrow on the upset in Draegorne. Falsa Veritatis Dater and the cult of Varnaxis were officially found guilty of terrorism in Zarvail and Solvara. On the next day, even more people arrived at the court, and thus the court center was forced to open up broadcasting screens for the massive audience. There was no longer any series of court cases, but the revelation of an entire manipulated history across several realms. The people begin cheering for Freya Zigar and shout her name in chants as she enters the vicinity. Freya is the people's hero. As the court unravels the next documentation to discuss, Falsa can be seen muttering to himself about needing chocolate and how he is a chocolate salesman. He will need to close his business after this is over at the rate this is going. The court begins with discussing the evidence of Avant and then leaving with the monsters of Nemyra and Draegorne. While this is not necessarily a political conflict, it inevitably declared Avant and his companions allies of the enemy of the state. As noting before, to make this a quicker and smoother distinction, given the overwhelming advancement of Falsa and the cult being proven guilty, Freya once again uses her amulet and broadcasts the events in Draegorne. She was fighting against the super beast, until later Athen joined the fray and the beast revealed itself as the Nytherian that evolved from their previous encounter in Zarvail. The beast had requested their assistance in Nemyra to fight for their self-governed species, which would also be preventing the further advancement of monsters into Draegorne. She ends her broadcast at the ironic moment when Avant names the super beast because it is a corrupted manifestation of Avant's DNA, Vantus Rendoga, and how if it were to ever start barking like a dog that he would have to put it down. Many people all around the realm chuckle to themselves. They like Avant's sense of humor. Falsa openly admits that he in fact was the goofy goober who had the photographs made about them, and that all people deserve to see his glorious undersea peanut. 2 verifications are made from today's assessment. The evolving nature of self-governing creatures of Nemyra over a year ago are a considerable threat, and the Zendelga team are in fact not friends with monsters. The next day we'll go over the final lament, the drug in Nemyra. When the next day arrives, the people are now cheering the names of both Freya Zigar and Avant Zigar. It's incredible to see how everything has changed. Over on the opposing side with the same clown who still sits only to himself muttering away, but has never appeared to have any negative emotions from the very beginning of the trials in the courts. The Mages Association decides they wish to step in and finish this case since it has an effect of dealing with them. The association presents information on the experiments that they were experimenting on Drugan's parents over a period of time and how they were trying to find a way to neutralize the effects of blood rage. The unfortunate matter was that it was found out someone had broken into the labs and stolen the materials from the experiments. When Freya casts her amulet, she dates back to their time in Nemyra where they had entered the fight. Upon their arrival in the back scenes of things, she showcases the sight of the one and only sane jester that was walking away in the distance with a glorious smirk on his face. No other further evidence is necessary. The courts officially find Falsa Veritatis Dater and the cult of Varnaxis guilty of breaking and entering, theft, and other various acts of terrorism with criminals. Falsa is hereby imprisoned in Virelios for the rest of his life, never to leave the depths of containment. The final proclamation has come true. All of the Z Legion's accusations and previously guilty acts have all been proven false. There are no more allegations against Avant or any of them. Freya Zigar later in the evening rests in the now owned property in Nemyra. With the group companions, she is seen crying tears of joy, wishing that if only her husband were to ever see this miracle that she was able to perform. Not even the goddesses of chaos themselves could have predicted this outcome. The very next morning arises, and Vestra, the goddess of chaos, appears at the team's doorstep. She comes with rather unsettling news. Vestra explains that she and another person are aware that Avant Zigar was sealed away by the Aganosis seal over a year ago after the Zendelga massacre. Vestra is able to recognize that she had helped seal him away with one other person, but she cannot remember where Avant was placed after the incident. Vestra was specifically given by the mage that sealed Avant away a condition under oath that she would forget where Avant is and anything about that moment for over a year in order to protect anybody finding anything out about him somehow. This immediately unsettles everybody. Could he really still be alive then? Aganos' seal for over a year. The longest that somebody had ever survived within the Forbidden Seal was 1 year, though they admit it never was someone of Chaos descent. Given that the seal was created from Chaos descent, maybe Avant could be experiencing the seal completely differently than anybody else. No matter, the team quickly goes to the Mages Association and creates a tool that can be used to track the negative energy from Aganos' seal thanks to the help of Vestra. The tracking device locates 5 different targets, all of them in completely different regions of the world. No time to think, they set off one by one to the following locations. Between the members of Valen, Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, and the Friend's wife, they have all the power they need to free Avant from the Forbidden Seal. It's a matter of finding him before the seal fully corrupts his body and finishes devouring his soul. There are many of those in the highest power of godlike beings that still would rather Avant die in agony given what happened in the past, though they do at least respect him as an individual after clearing his name. Before they leave, the Mages Association was able to uncover another truth regarding the Divine War. There is a place called the Trials of the Gods. The Trials of the Gods is the ultimate, non-lethal crucible designed to test a combatant's total mastery, moral conviction, and raw power before they are granted access to the Tier 5 God tier class. It is not merely a test of strength, but a psychological and spiritual challenge that forces the applicant to confront the core of their being, their greatest weakness, their deepest fear, and the limits of their resolve and conviction. The trials operate as a highly specialized gauntlet. It simulates confrontations with primordial entities and sealed god fragments, judging not only the applicant's skill proficiency, but their courage to stand up for what they know is right. Success grants access to the full potential of their class. The location of the Trials of the Gods has been in secret since the times of the Divine War. The trials exist just outside of Velgrith, Zarvael's capital, in a sanctuary all to its own. They all are to go and test their strengths and capabilities to become a god tier class before searching for the Aganos' seal individuals. The Mages Association had created a teleportation device capable of teleporting many individuals to any capital in any realm that is not Nemyra. The group is instantly teleported to Velgrith. They meet with Luna Zavareth and Valtheron Zendelga, to which they join along and go to the Trials of the Gods. Out of all combatants on their individual accord, all of them complete the Trials of the Gods except for Freya Zigar. Freya had failed to complete the trails due to not having solidified her final purpose according to a Trials Keeper, and certainly not because of her strengths. Though Freya failed to complete the Trials Keeper explains that she had been observing her for quite some time, and currently amongst the living, Freya is within the top 5 strongest fighters of all, and certainly in the running to be number 1. The Tier 5 God tier classes are as follows: Valen Calva, Calva Sovereign, Julian Axton, Radiant Paragon, Lyra Axton, Solon Victor, Cypher Hex, Umbra Diorum, Luna Zavareth, Zolvari, Valtheron Zendelga, Oblivion King, Liliana Zendelga, Deity of Finality, and Draegorne Zendelga, Deity of Oblivion. Draegorne and Liliana are pronounced as 2 newly added God and Goddess of Chaos. The other members resemble the power of gods and have their own statuses as profound individuals in the world. With their new profound power, they explain to Valtheron and Luna about their next objective they have uncovered and move on. Together they go to each location, the first being in Nemyra. A false identifier, it was not him, but they still chose to free the soul from corruption. The second location was in Solvara at its northeasternmost part of the land. Not him either, they free the poor chained soul. Freya's and Valen's communication devices go off. They are told from Lady Ashan and the Mages Association that godlike beings are acting suspiciously and are on the move, as if searching for something. Freya's heart drops. Avant cannot defend himself as a beholder of the Forbidden Seal if he is still alive. He has no mana stores and no memories. They need to find him now. The third location lies in Ferundel. This one is not him either, yet another freed soul though. Nobody is unhappy about doing that. Person 4 is located in the southern depths of Virelios. The team quickly gets to the location and finds that it is but a criminal from a year ago who does not wish to be freed, but executed. Valen's assassin accepts the request and kills the criminal. One final marking remains in Draegorne near the area of the cult's lair. When they arrive, they find a monster entity that was imprisoned in the Agnosis seal. The monster was an Etherion from Nemyra. They kill the Etherion, but feel defeated by the fact that there are no other entities on the tracker. As soon as doubts begin, the tracker shines up and another location has been identified in the Chaos Realm. The communication devices go off from the same companions from before, highlighting that several godlike beings are fighting a monster invasion from Nemyra on both sides of Zarvale and Athen around the borders of the Weeping Dystopia. Only one thought comes to mind: that has to be him, but why did it turn up now? As the team arrives at the Weeping Dystopia near the gate, they are stopped by multiple gods and goddesses alike. They explain that the only way beyond the gate to Nemyra will be by killing them, as they have connected their life source to the gate, firmly keeping it closed as long as they are alive. They announce the only job left: they have to make sure enough time is stalled on the other side. Freya's deepened hatred pours out of her. "You're all dead to me. I'll tear out everything you love." The scene cuts back to over a year ago in Zarvale. Avant wakes up, unknown to everything about where he is, who he is, and what has happened up to this point. Someone that appears to be a local in the area finds him and pesters him full of questions, nothing that he could answer. The only thing he is certainly aware of is that it's likely he has no home to go to. The local explains that the village is incredibly small, but is easily accepting of other people and allows him to remain and live with him for as long as Avant wants to. Accepting the proposal, Avant becomes a casual labor worker in the village, helping remodel some of their housing, and on the other aspect, it turns out the local he now lives with is someone that is a single lead on the financial aspects for the village. Avant quickly finds out that he is exceptionally gifted at financial planning for government organizations, though the village is incredibly small. Avant ends up being hired as a full-time financial specialist for their local jurisdiction. Over the next several months, Avant and the local person continue to build the local village by bringing in other businesses, creating efficiency, and expanding their network with more people. A year passes and the village is no longer a tiny little village with almost nothing in it, but a thriving small town with business booming. They have managed to hire a mercenary group to protect the security of the town, establish modern architecture, and create a tourism location. The tourism is from a forgotten sigil that ever since they had accidentally dug it up within the town, it now shines brightly and illuminates the surrounding town. During one of the days, Avant is out walking away from the town into an area that is never ventured. He is ambushed by a small group of monsters from Nemyra, a pack of wolves. Considering he is only a human being at this time with no magical capabilities, he is quickly overwhelmed and torn up. Before he is killed by the pack of wolves, a sudden surge of black mana radiates from his body and pulses into his veins. A sudden shock instantly shrieks within him. He is having these crazy images of things that would only be noticed in literature. Upon seeing the surge of power, the wolves immediately run away, being well aware that he would slaughter them. Avant notices he has a burning sensation at the side of his front. A marking is printed on his body. Unsure as to what just happened, he is well aware that all of it is bad and continues to act as if nothing happened. During the upcoming days, he realizes he has trouble sleeping, and the pain within the marking is getting worse with every passing day. He begins to look ill. When people begin noticing his sickly self, he states that everything is fine, and he goes back out to where the mark had first appeared. Retracing his steps, another group of monsters approaches him, but before he could think it over, his body is already moving on its own, and he slaughters the monsters with little to no effort at all. Though he still remains in serious pain, he does feel a little better after having fought. Over the next 3 months, he continues adventuring out nearby, killing monsters from time to time, as if slowly remembering how to fight. Until one day, he finds himself fighting against what appeared to a group of monsters at first, but then turned out to be an all-out invasion. Zarvale is being invaded by the monsters of Nemyra in masses. Avant is approached by a much stronger foe compared to what he is used to fighting. A Tier 3 monster of the Void-Touch species. They swarm Avant and severely injure him. As he lays on the ground breathing in his final breath, Vantis Rendelga appears and saves him, killing off all of the monsters surrounding him. Vantus is able to recognize who he is because of the DNA transfer from long ago. The super beast approaches him and explains that he is a friend and not a foe, but what he has to do now will cause great discomfort. Vantus uses his corrupted mana to remove the magical binding on his body and thrusts him into immediate insurmountable pain. Memories of his past begin flowing in slowly, and the full pain and agony of Aghanos's seal begins to emerge. Vantus offers any bit of healing magic that he is capable of, but realizes Aghanos's seal is preventing any external healing sources. Vantus helps him stand, but before anything else can be discussed, Avant realizes the town he has been living in is under major siege from monsters. Avant thanks the mysterious monster that looks so vaguely familiar to him and immediately rushes over to the town he had been living in, with many memories all pouring back at once. He summons his sword Zerun. Avant blinks into the town that is being overrun by monsters and starts slaughtering them off, defending the town. The mercenaries and other soldiers from the capital are fighting the monsters off and notice him wielding his sword. Wait, but that cannot be. That is the royal sword of Zendilga Zerun. But who is he? I had never seen him before. A boss monster and tier 5 god of the void-touch species appears after a brand new Nithara gate opens up in front of the town, the Entropy. Prepared to leap in, Avant then channels his Chaos Mana transformation and unleashes Chaos Resurgence, changing his appearance entirely back to what everyone else knows of. The people in the town begin to uproar. Everyone. The Prince of Chaos is here. We can win this fight. We stand with Von Zigar. When no other choices remain, the fight begins and a messenger arrives. Many godlike beings have been sighted in Nithra and on the other side of the gate in Athen. Prince Valancalva and Freya Zigar's Z-Legion are also there. Avant is thrown into a whole world of confusion and frustration. They want to fight with me? My wife is alive? But how? I watched her die. Along with all of the others. What in the world is going on here? My power is heavily limited right now because of the Aghanos's seal. Though I can feel my power returning very slowly while I am fighting, I spent the past year or so building on myself as a human being. I certainly feel that I am overall stronger than I was over a year ago before being sealed away. If there was ever a turning point in my life, this would be it. I can't stop now. Freya, just a little longer. I'm sorry that you had to continue being alive without me. Solvara, wake up. I know you are still inside of me for all this time. You too are impacted by Aghanos's seal, right? We're together on this one. If I die then, we both die. Solvara channels from within Avant the little bit she can offer in terms of support. She can reduce part of the impact Aghanos's seal is having in reducing Avant's power level. As he fought the initial waves of monsters and the powerful entropy, the Aghanos's seal, the magic designed for memory erasure and soul corrosion, began to shatter. This process was visualized like a game interface, showing his progress toward being freed from the seal and the percentage of his original power he was currently capable of. As the seal continued to visibly shatter, Vaughn became increasingly capable, regaining not just his strength but glimmers of his original self. On one side of the weeping dystopia, Liliana Zendilga made a decision to take the long way around and traverse through a different Nithara gate entirely, hoping to reach Vaughn before the concentrated forces of the gods arrived. In order for her to do that, the others would have to continue to fight at the weeping dystopia in order to make sure none of the godlike beings performed the same casting on any other gates. Freya gave Lily the tracker and left. Her journey was fraught with danger, and upon finally reaching the Chaos Realm through the newly opened Nithara Gate, she found herself completely unable to relay any message to Freya and the others still in Athen. The overwhelming magical presence of the lurking godlike beings around Nithara had completely canceled all mana-oriented communication, isolating her and Vaughn in the deadliest arena of the battlefield. When Avant and Liliana together, with the help of some elite soldiers, kill the entropy, they prepare to jump the Nithara Gate into Nithara, but a godlike being meets them at the door. The being is filled with complete disgust, seeing that Avant Zigar truly is alive, and broadcasts to many other godlike beings to come and reinforce the issue. They intend to hold the line at Nithara on the other side, keeping Freya and the other members apart long enough to kill Avant. As Avant and Liliana continue to fight for their lives, Liliana assures Avant that with her being a newly acquainted goddess of chaos, she will ensure his safety until Freya arrives. Zarvel continues to be assaulted by monsters from all over. Other notable fellows such as Luna Zavareth and Valtheron Zendelga are out killing monsters throughout Zarvel. Avant's seal continues to weaken, but is not strong enough currently to continuously fend off Tier 5 enemies. More godlike beings continue to appear one by one over the course of every few minutes. Another sudden appearance occurs. It is this nameless figure that Freya had dueled in a 1 versus 1 earlier in the day. Unsure as to why, he says that he has to kill Avant and nobody else can. The nameless figure announces that he is Avant Zagar from another dimensional timeline. He calls himself Gazia. He has been contracted to kill because Zarvet Zendelga managed to annihilate his entire world. Thus, his final attempt to bring his Freya Zagar back to life is to continue killing the living and gathering souls within his corrupted Z-Rune. Once enough souls have been collected, his variant of Freya will be released from his Z-Rune and be resurrected. He was a horrifying perfect mirror of Vaughn, clad in abyssal black and dull, corrupted violets, his aura clinging to him like funeral wrappings and smelling faintly of ash and temporal cold. He wielded his corrupted mana-fused Z-Rune, a terrifying broadsword that visibly shimmered with the energy of stored, agonizing souls. Zarveth Zendelga had supposedly been trapped amidst a Cornostic seal for over 100 years since the Divine War. Gazia explains that Zarveth has found a way to manipulate other dimensions by having a doppelganger of himself do his dirty work, and has been ravaging the likes of the living in multiple dimensions, starting with his. Zarveth spared Gazia's life, but has been using him as a tool of his own to slaughter the living across other dimensions. Gazia has never considered fighting against Zarveth because he already had before and utterly lost, not just the battle, but everything in his life, including his beloved. Gazia ends with one last statement, suggesting that Zarveth of this dimensional timeline is the original Zarveth that has been ravaging against other dimensions. As far as any of the godlike beings that have come to this location to hear the story have no care in the world, except for the fact that the Avant Zagar of this timeline must die for the impacts he had created during the Zendelga massacre. Zarveth's Chronostic seal is nearing its point of shattering at this very moment. The battle continues to become a hectic all-out war with numerous potential outcomes. Judging by the significant turning point of this moment of time, there are many potential futures that could play out. For the sake of understanding, we will call this Battleground Zagar's duality. There will be 5 different endings. Ending number 1, Gazia Zagar, the inevitable cycle during the Battle of Zagar's duality. The Battle of Freya's side takes much longer than anticipated, and they inevitably do not break through the Nemyra gate in Athen due to the overwhelming amount of godlike beings that come to stop Freya's aid. Though Liliana, Avant, and the Chaos realm prevail on their side, including killing Gazia Zagar, the leading force in Zarvel has suffered from too many casualties and cannot continue into Nemyra. Zarveth Zendelga breaks free from his Chronostic seal and impedes the question on all living, submit or die. Zarveth intervenes where Freya and the massive battle is occurring on her side, the Nemyra gates, and are all wiped out by Zarveth Zendelga, including Freya Zagar and all her companions. Zarveth ultimately ends up killing all of the living because they choose to die over ever serving Zarveth, except for one person, and that is Von Zagar, who accepts to contract with Zarveth in order to one day resurrect his fallen wife that Zarveth had concealed within Z-Rune. The cycle continues. Ending number 2, Azusa Zagar, the time-bound legacy. During the Battle of Zagar's duality, Gazia Zagar manages to kill Von Zagar and restore his Freya Zagar variant from his timeline. The two of them annihilate all beings of the Chaos realm together. Zarveth Zendelga breaks free from his Chronostic seal and impedes the question on all living, submit or die. Zarveth intervenes where Freya and the massive battle is occurring on her side, the Nemyra gates, and are all wiped out by Zarveth Zendelga, including Freya Zagar and all her companions. Because Gazia Zagar had followed through with his contract and promised to kill the living to rebirth his Freya variant, Zarveth grants them both the power to revert back into their original selves and not the dreaded variants. Many other people are inevitably killed for choosing not to serve with Zarvith Zendelga, but some do because they believe that it is the true Freya and Avant Zagar who are alive. Many years later, Freya and Avant have a daughter named Azusa Zigar, but the Avant of another dimensional timeline enters into this world and kills Azusa's father before she is born, though this Avant is only tasked with killing his alternative variants in other dimensional timelines. Fast forward many years, Azusa is 25 years old and had been raised by Freya Zigar as a single mother and had become an incredibly powerful Chaos Resurgent user. When Zarvith of this time had progressed over the years, he eliminates Azusa's implications of Blood Rage and has the same powers affiliated with the Zavarith lineage. One day Zarvith goes on a journey but inevitably never returns. He sends a formal letter to Azusa that is delivered by Vantus Rendelga about the legend of the Altar Spirit. It is said in the legends deep within Nithra of an Altar Spirit that exists. The Altar Spirit is a subset of the will of Chaos, and its objective is to completely possess a strong individual for an eternity, where the attributes of character directly shift to their own counterparts. This individual becomes someone new entirely, though maintains the same body and face of the one being possessed and becomes significantly more powerful. In this timeline, Freya Zagar is possessed by the Altar Spirit and kills the remainder of the living in this world, except her daughter. Azusa manages to kill her mother Freya with the help of Vantus Rendelga. Vantus requests Azusa to come with him to Nithra, as he originally was trying to take Azusa to a place he found in Nithra. When they reach the destination, Vantus realizes the citadel they had found reacts to Azusa and a portal opens. Azusa acquires the capability to time travel to other dimensions, but cannot specifically target what timeline and dimension she will appear in. She realizes that all she needs to do is find Gazia Zigar, the one who killed her father before she was born, to retract history. Azusa enters the portal and begins her journey to find and kill Gazia. Ending number 3, Finality, the nihilistic end. During the Battle of Zigar's duality, the Battle of Freya's side takes much longer than anticipated, and they inevitably do not break through the Nithera gate in Athen due to the overwhelming amount of godlike beings that come to stop Freya's aid. Von Zagar is unable to withstand the pain and agony within Aganosa's seal, and Solvara still believes in killing all of the world, for they cannot be restored from their sins. Solvara repossesses Von to enter into Blood Rage, except the total agony and fatigue that succumbs to him from the totality of all effects from Aganosa's seal sends him into Chaos Resurgence Phase 4, the end. Von is immediately broken free from the Aganosa's seal and has achieved maximum power. All of the living are forced to turn against Von Zagar, including Freya and her companions. Inevitably, Von brutally kills all of them, then continues to repeat the same scenario of the Zendelga massacre, except this time he kills every living embodiment of soul and livelihood, including monsters. Once everything in the world of Valaris was annihilated, his power consumed himself, and he died a very agonizing death to himself. Ending number 4, the nightmare ending, Von Zagar Altar. During the Battle of Zigar's duality, the Battle of Freya's side takes much longer than anticipated, and they inevitably do not break through the Nithra gate in Athen due to the overwhelming amount of godlike beings that come to stop Freya's aid. There is an Altar Spirit that had been following Gazia Zigar for a long period of time. The Altar Spirit unexpectedly thrashes out of a similar portal that Gazia had come out of and connects itself inside Von Zagar. In normal scenarios, Von is too powerful for the Altar Spirit to possess, but because he has to come to the Aganosa's seal, it enters him with ease and begins rebuilding itself from within him. Gazia Zagar notices that there is something strange going on with the Von Zagar of this timeline. Not only is he inherently significantly stronger than any other Von Zagar variant out of all he has killed, Von has begun radiating a different mana source that Gazia has never seen before. Von Zagar Altar speaks telepathically to Von and says that he is the embodiment of the true hero, but in the worst possible way, and will kill all of the living when he is released. Altar's reasons are because of the pain and suffering that Von has been forced to deal with throughout his life. Any person without half as much morals would take it out on the living. Von powers erupt at an uncontrollable rate, and he kills Gazia as well as the opposing godlike beings that are trying to kill him. Von Zagar realizes that something is incredibly wrong inside of him to a point, where he begins having another mind of his own talking to him. Solvara, who is also a soul inside of Vaughn, is trying to eliminate the altar spirit from within him, but fails because the altar spirit grows in strength as Von Zagar continues to be freed from Aghanos' seal. Vaughn tells Solvara to kill himself from within, but the altar spirit states that he will not allow Vaughn to die as long as the altar spirit lives on. Von Zagar, Liliana, Luna Zavareth, and Valtheron Zendelga rush into Nithra and break their way through the locked Nithra gate to support Freya Zagar. The Z-Legion altogether kills the remaining godlike beings that were fighting in Athen with Freya's group. When the fighting is all over, Vaughn tells the group that they need to prepare for the final battle that is himself, because Alter is coming. Before he can say any more, Von Zagar Alter appears in front of Vaughn. He will be referenced as Alter from now on. Alter explains that it is already too late because he will free Von Zagar from Aghanos' seal himself while fighting everybody else. Alter frees Von Zagar from Aghanos' seal and permanently possesses Vaughn by trapping his soul deep within Alter. They attempt to kill Alter but cannot make any progress. Reinforcements from all around Velaris come to aid the Z-Legion and kill Alter after receiving the same alarm that went off during the Zendelga massacre as Alter officially spawned. Alter has become a power beyond that of an almighty god by having an infinite sustaining mana source of the original Von Zagar trapped deep inside Alter's soul. Recognizing that all of Velaris' greatest soldiers are losing the fight against Alter, he allows for one final chance, and that is for the Z-Legion to enter Alter's soul and face him from within. They may choose to save Von Zagar's soul from within if they have the power to achieve it. The Z-Legion agrees, and they are all thrusted inside Alter's soul. They are immediately met with an environment that resembles that of a large magic circle, but can only see so far in the distance before the foggy landscape is too thick to see any further. Upwards on a staircase that reaches to a peak where a large sigil lies, they see Von Zagar that is stabbed with spikes and cannot move. Within this battlefield, there is an endless mass of Von Zagar Alter variants that are spawning in the other class types that Vaughn could create doppelgangers of. As long as Alter has mana, the spawns will never end. It's a brutal survival match, unless they manage to slay Alter. The environment is full of constant screams of agony. They are chaotic variants of Von Zagar screaming to himself at the top of the stairway as he continues to suffer but echo throughout the fog. The Z-Legion manages to hold out for several hours, and they manage to injure Alter but inevitably become overrun by all of the non-stop spawning variants and all die. Von Zagar is left to suffer for eternity within Alter. On the outside world back in Velaris, Alter continues to take his time torturing people as he slowly kills all of the living. Many scenes are played of him torturing all people of all tiers of power, including a moment where there is a first-person view of a young woman that is hiding within her home at midnight. The surroundings outside are covered with ongoing fires as the Alter variants are out cleaving the landscapes and setting everything aflame. The young woman is weeping. She watched somebody die inside her house and ran upstairs to her bedroom. The lighting around her continues to grow dimmer until she cannot see anything at all. She hears the primal sounds of something getting devoured nearby and wishes it would all just end already. She finally sees a figure standing at her doorway with the door now open but has glowing yellow eyes. The figure says that she deserves this treatment because she caused the same agony to him over a year ago. The woman screams until the sound of a bucket dropping full of water occurs pouring all over the walls. The world of Velaris continues to exist, but a dictator that will never be overthrown remains in power, and the poor soul within him will suffer for eternity. Ending number 5, the true ending, Retribution and the true finality. During the battle of Zigar's duality, there is an altar spirit that had been following Gazia Zigar for a long period of time. The altar spirit unexpectedly thrashes out of a similar portal that Gazia had come out of and connects itself inside Von Zagar, but this time the portal remains open. In normal scenarios, Vaughn is too powerful for the altar spirit to possess, but because he has succumbed to the Aghanos' seal, it enters him with ease and begins rebuilding itself from within him. Gazia Zigar notices that there is something strange going on with the Von Zagar of this timeline. Not only is he inherently significantly stronger than any other Von Zagar variant out of all he has killed, Vaughn has begun radiating a different mana source that Gazia has never seen before. Von Zagar Alter speaks telepathically to Von and says that he is the embodiment of the true hero, but in the worst possible way, and will kill all of the living when he is released. Alter's reasons are because of the pain and suffering that Von has been forced to deal with throughout his life. Any person without half as much morals would take it out on the living. After Alter has made his intentions clear, Freya Zigar and the Z-Legion arrive after killing the several godlike beings that were maintaining the Nithra Gate shut. The battle effectively comes to a complete halt as another new member, never before seen, enters the battlefield from the portal that remained open. A young woman around the age of 25 years old appears. Before anyone is able to react, she immediately runs over to Von Zagar and quietly stands in front of him. When Von asks who the young woman is, she responds with the fact that she has never properly met her father until this very moment. Gazia Zigar lowers his weapon and looks at Azusa in a look of utter pain and depression. I never knew I would have a daughter with Freya. Azusa explains that she has been time traveling over several dimensional timelines with the hopes of finally catching up to the man that had killed her original father, and that killer is named Gazia. She looks back over to Gazia, realizing who the man is, and says a few words. Looks like I finally caught up to you. You may resemble my father, but you will never be anything like my real father. Azusa explains that in her timeline, the problem all stems from Gazia Zagar existing. Then in Gazia's timeline, he explains that the reason why Gazia Zagar exists is because of Zarvith Zendelga. Gazia also knows that there were other worlds where whenever any Avant or Freya was killed, then there was a traumatic ending that occurred in any of those worlds as well. The solution became clear. With everybody here in a conjoined effort, they have to kill Zarvith Zendelga, and both Freya and Avant must survive. Solvara announces from within Avant by channeling her mana through Avant's body that she is in full agreement that Avant needs to become released from Aganos' seal as soon as possible. Then, with the combined power of Freya and Avant of this current timeline, they can foster enough power needed within Gazia Zerun to resurrect his variant of Freya. Freya, Liliana, Draegorne, Valen, Gazia, and Azusa channel their energies together and forcefully break free Von Zagar from Aganos' seal. The altar spirit still remains within Von and is growing slowly, but has not had enough time to prosper. Soulvara is now able to leave Von's body and remain independent finally now that Aganos' seal has been dispelled. Von and Freya both then channel their chaos mana into Gazia's blade, and the jewel that contains all of the souls breaks. The Freya variant from his timeline appears and is now freed from her shackles and resurrected from the dead. Her new name is Virelios Zigar, the Freya variant. It was at this time that Zarvith Zendelga breaks free from his chronostic seal and impedes the question on all living, submit or die. When he releases his worldwide statement, he realizes Gazia and Azusa are both in Zarvale, but that is impossible because they only exist in other dimensional timelines. Azusa explains that all of the manipulation he has caused in other dimensions is the reason why they now exist here, and the only method to stopping it all from happening again is for him to die. Gazia is in agreement with his otherworldly daughter and states that he will fight with the living of this world to never allow another Gazia to ruin his daughter's future. Zarvith Zendelga is amused that they believe they could have any power to stand against a being that has conquered several worlds of Valaris. Zarvith tells the world to meet him beyond the gates to Nithera over by the entrance in Draegorne, where they will conclude their final battle there. Zarvith explains he will have the pleasure of manipulating the environment into something worthy of true finality. While Zarvith is waiting and creating the final destination, he tells Von and Freya Zagar to go to the trials of the gods and establish themselves as Tier 5 god tier fighters to prepare for their unholy deathbed. Freya and Von go to the trials of the gods and become their Tier 5 god tier class, the Aveya Ascendant, and meet up with the coalition armies all together in Nithera as planned. When Freya and Avant reach the destination, they find an entirely eerie location that is built off the transparency of chaos mana in a black and red atmosphere filled with crystalline walk paths that is full of ongoing mana storms. This area looks like one of mythical legends, painted as an alternative dimension. It's hard to believe that Zarvith had created this by himself. The strongest of people from every nation and realm has come together and form the coalition army to face off against Zarvith. All united, they will proceed from every angle towards the centermost part. The battlefield expands to a massive area of nearly 500 miles. The coalition army elects the Z Legion to be the elite leading force for this final battle. Vaughn and Freya Zigar are the official duo commanders. The lineup is as follows. The Z Legion: Avant Zigar, Freya Zigar, Liliana Zendelga, Drugan Zendelga, Valen Calva, Cypher Hex, Julian Axton, Lyra Axton, Valtheron Zendelga, Luna Zavareth Azusa Zigar future daughter, Gazia Zigar, the Avant variant, and Rilia Zigar, the Freya variant. From Virelios, the lineup is as follows: Victor Calva, Sarilyn Calva, and Estrella, the Equinox Sentinel. From Draegorne, the lineup is as follows: Zaldin, the Ravager of War, and a few mercenary leaders. From Nemyra, the lineup is as follows: Kalon, the Architect of Mana and the Mages Association. From Ferundel, the lineup is as follows: Sylvanese, the Warden of Roots and their council. From Solvara, the lineup is as follows: Valuria, the Serpent of Prosperity, or Lady Ashan. From Lazulun, the Realm of Light, the lineup is as follows: Lumina, the Celestial Goddess of Light. From Noctirose, the Realm of Darkness, the lineup is as follows: Xenon, Darkness Corruptor. From Zarvale, the Chaos Realm, the lineup is as follows: the Goddesses of Chaos, Vestra, and Solera, as well as any other godlike being within Athen or any other realms that have been resurrected since the reconstruction of Athen. Once the coalition army begins marching into Zarvith's domain, he casts his ultimate division of corruption. Over the time that Zarvith had been manipulating other dimensions, he had been storing mana into a giant crystalline structure that he had kept within Nithara. Zarvith uses the mana within the giant sigil to resurrect all of the Zendelga lineage bloodline from its very beginning of time, but every person being reborn is forced to enter blood rage. As each person dies, the sigil will continue to recast resurrection, and Zarvith's domain will force them to re-enter blood rage. A terrible and unforgiving cycle. A complete and unthinkable result only designed by somebody that is beyond that of a mad heretic. The coalition army marches onward and collides against the mad heretic army. By the time the Z Legion arrives at Zarvith, they realize that Falsa Veritatis Dater is there speaking with Zarvith. Falsa is pleading that he wishes to serve Zarvith, and that has been his truth all along, and starts shouting, "I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready." Zarvith can see through the jester's muse and summons his corrupted Almighty Zerun. A scythe sword staff fusion and unleashes a sword wave at the jester, hitting him, then links the jester's body to his mana and reverse collapses his body into pieces. After Falsa Veritatis Dater dies, Von Zigar Alter begins to unleash himself, separating from Von Zagar. There are now two super beings between Zarvith Zendelga and Von Zagar Alter. With the support of the constant resurrections of Zendelga Blood Rage people, the true finality commences as three groupings of entities: Team 1, Zarvith and his supporters; Team 2, Von Zagar Alter; and Team 3, the Z Legion and the Coalition Army. As the fight progresses, Frey requests Avant to trust her instincts and join together on one last super ultimate technique. Vaughn agrees, and Frey proceeds to channel together with Vaughn. The two fuse into one being. This being is known as AveyaZ, the Ascended Resurgent. Aveya casts two skills. One is an ultimate technique that combines both aspects of Zigar's blessing and the blessing of Zendelga, known as the Blessing of Ascended Chaos. This allows for 4 individuals to become capable of using Chaos Resurgence Blood Rage at full potential without feeding into the possession by the will of Chaos. The other is to create 2 doppelgangers that are the exact replicas of Freya and Avant, independently capable of fully functioning on their own while having access to Blood Rage. After a long and drawn-out brutal battle amongst the Almighty, the Z Legion and the Coalition Army kill both Von Zagar Alter and Zarvith Zendelga. Peace finally returns to all of the realms except for Nithra. Before Zarvith died, he left the protagonist with one last lament, and that is that the real answers to Zarvith lie deep within Nithra and the realm of Order. The scene cuts quickly far into the Order realm, where there is a dark Templar that is awakened from sleeping. He feels as if he had been sleeping for a very long time. His body painfully aches all over as if all of his insides had been ripped out. The man has a few words replaying in his mind, but he has no idea why. Falsa Veritatis Vela. Though they will have to look into the answers within Nithra and the Realm of Order, the Z Legion rests easy tonight with their newfound otherworldly companions, hoping that one day they can send them back to their timelines and restore their own worlds. This marks the end of the main story in AveyaZ. From Birthright to Retribution. Thank you all for being here, and let me know what part or parts you enjoyed the most. Take care.